6 o'clock. Good morning, live from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs studio. I'm Justin Hawkins. Big news in the SEC and across college sports yesterday as the SEC joined the Big Ten in its unanimous opposition to athletes leaving the NFL and returning to college teams, swiftly passing a new rule that gives Commissioner Greg Sankey full authority to enforce it with penalties that are still to be announced. The rule also applies to the NBA and WNBA as well. Also yesterday on 3 Sports Reports, that Notre Dame and the Big 12 are also going to align with the SEC and the Big 10 in this opposition. In Vols football news yesterday, senior linebacker Arion Carter's suspension was officially reduced yesterday from 2 games to 1 game per Tennessee's athletic director Danny White, as he tells VolQuest. Carter will now just miss the season opener in Knoxville against Furman September 5th, but will play Week 2 against Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And the Titans, they're off today, but camp officially will resume tomorrow as Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears come to town for joint practice at the Vanderbilt Health Football Center as their preparations continue for the preseason finale that is this Saturday at Nissan Stadium with a 5 p.m. kickoff. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once and you're home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Off and running, back in studio on your Wednesday morning edition of Ramon and Will. We've got Tuesday practice takeaways for you coming up this morning on a day where the defense was better than the offense. Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears are coming to town tomorrow. We'll talk about that with Rhett Bryan coming up here in 20 minutes. He'll join us in the 7 a.m. hour. So not 20 minutes, but we will talk a little bit about joint practice and yesterday's practice in 20 minutes. Bill Connolly of ESPN at 8:20 and Easton Freeze of A to Z Sports in hour 4 at 9:20 this morning. 615-737-1045 is our number and streaming live at 1045 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Ramon out today. He'll be back with us tomorrow for joint practice. So you've got me, Will Bowling, and our producer, Justin Hawkins. What's up? Good morning.
Good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day.
You as well? Tough day yesterday.
It was a very tough day yesterday.
Gut punch of a day, losing Dolly Parton. She was the best of us. And I know this probably hit you just like it hit me and hit a lot of our listeners. And it's still hitting me that we have lost the queen of the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, and everybody goes through their own things, of course, whether it be her music or the things that she does for charity and the things that she's just created. So for us, it's a meaningful impact because of the imagination library that she's created. And the books that she gives to thousands and millions of children, across the country. For us, we have yet to get our first book, but it is coming, and we will get that until I think it's about the age of 5.
Until they turn 5.
So her impact goes beyond belief, and it's amazing. She's lived a fantastic life, and I don't know if you saw yesterday, but there was people lining up at her gate, and just flowers and posters and candle lights and everything. It was just a wonderful thing to see.
She was the best of us. Talented, humble, kind, giving, genuinely as Tennessee as a person could be. The fourth of 12 children born in Locust Ridge, Tennessee. She was very proud of being from Gatlinburg, Sevierville, that area of East Tennessee. Credited her uncle Bill Owens for encouraging her to pursue music and buying her a guitar, getting her a role on a television variety show in Knoxville when she was 10. 6 brothers and 5 sisters, the fourth children of 12. I loved, she said in 2015, telling Entertainment Tonight, I've always loved being from where I am. I think my childhood made me everything I am today. I would trade nothing for being brought up in the Great Smoky Mountains. She was truly so proud to be a Tennessean and an East Tennessean and cared so much about the people in this community.
Yeah, and I saw this really cool story yesterday about how she was born and the doctor that came in, and they didn't really have a lot of money. Of course, she grew up in a one-room cabin, and when she was born, her family offered a bag of cornmeal. And that was their trade-off. And of course, that was probably the best trade in the history of trades.
Unbelievable.
I mean,
a bag of cornmeal to birth Dolly Parton.
Crazy. I mean, wow. It's just thinking about like all the songs and the history of like how many platinum records she's made, just the impact that she's the type of person that yesterday was one day, but she lives on forever.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. First country singer to ever be nominated for an EGOT, which is quite an achievement. Emmy, Golden Globe, Oscar, Tony, if you're unfamiliar with what an EGOT is. Graduated from high school in 1964, moved to Nashville to pursue a career in music. She met her husband, Carl Dean, on her first day here in the city at a laundromat. They were married from 1966 until 2025 when he passed away. Signed with RCA Records as both a solo artist and obviously the show that she was a part of was a very big deal, the Porter Wagoner Show. Signed as Porter Wagoner's partner. Her first number one hit was Joshua in 1971, which led to Jolene, Love is Like a Butterfly, and I Will Always Love You in 1974. Something not a lot of people know, that was not written for a love interest. That was written for Porter Wagoner as she was leaving that show. I Will Always Love You was. And again, something that I feel like flies under the radar. That was a Dolly Parton song before it was a Whitney Houston song, obviously, and she covered that for a movie in the early 90s. I don't know about you. Have you been to Dollywood before?
Oh, yeah.
Dollywood for me was Disney World. We didn't do Disney World. We did Dollywood.
Yes.
Dollywood was my happiest place on earth growing up. My first ever roller coaster was the Thunderhead. Oh. I loved the Tennessee Tornado. I was riding the Mystery Mines like weeks after it opened. Now they have like the Soaring Eagle ride where your feet dangle. Mm-hmm. My grandparents would take me. My grandfather would go watch the shows. My grandmother would just take me. And we would do Dollywood one day, Splash Country the next day, the cinnamon bread, the caramel corn, all of it. Truly, my happiest place on earth was Dollywood, and that has gone a long way toward benefiting her foundation and her nonprofit, the Dollywood Foundation, which supports local schools and scholarship programs in East Tennessee that started in 1986. The Blazing Fury, an iconic ride in my family as well. That place is truly magical.
Yeah.
Truly magical.
I went to Disney World as a young kid, but I don't really remember it. So I attribute my first wooden roller coaster as the Thunderhead. And, you saying going to Dollywood just brought back so many like fond memories of growing up as a child. And I can't even imagine what Dollywood's going to be like in the future as they celebrate Dolly. Just truly magical.
It was awesome. It is a great place. So a couple other stories about Dolly that are pretty cool before we get to some of the Titans practice notes from yesterday. After the 2016 Sevier County wildfires, the My People Fund raised and distributed more than $12 million. She has given millions and millions and millions and millions of books to families like yours in the Imagination Library program. $1 million to Vanderbilt University Medical Center connected to COVID research during the pandemic. I mean, we could literally do this all day about the different philanthropic efforts that she had. She lost an award to 3-6 Mafia, sent them a congratulatory letter when she lost to them for Best Original Song. It was an Oscar that she lost to them, and the story goes that she just could not have been classier in congratulating them and being graceful about that. Her facial expression when she lost the award, it's all over social media. She's immediately happy. She's not hiding anything, and said, I was just glad that the award was coming back to Tennessee.
That's awesome.
Even though she is from the total opposite corner of Tennessee. Truly the best of us. Right. And I know there are a lot of Mount Rushmore conversations going on right now about the Mount Rushmore of Tennesseans on social media. She is absolutely on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest ever Tennesseans. There is no doubt in my mind.
Right. And the other kind of little cool part about the I Will Love You part of it is she always tags her Imagination Library books with I Will Love You. and which is fantastic. I truly cannot wait. I believe the first book that you get is The Little Engine That Could. And so Tatum's getting to that age where he's starting to pay attention and track us. He's not quite, obviously, to reading a book yet, or to us listening to books. We're just trying to make sure he can go to sleep at this point. But we are truly excited, and the things that she does has a lasting impact. And I feel blessed that we even get to experience this as well.
I saw a lot of folks saying yesterday, we may be a democracy in the United States, but Tennessee is a monarchy, and Dolly Parton was our queen. Is our queen.
And to see everybody unified in that yesterday, too. All the social media posts and everybody congratulating and celebrating her is just, it makes you feel good. And to have somebody in Tennessee that lived a life like that, and the thing that she will do forever with her foundations and her family, fantastic.
I think she is so relatable to people in Tennessee and in the South because she reminds so many of us of our grandmothers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is the thing for me, and maybe that's people of a certain age, but I just think everybody, like Dolly Parton was kind of a grandmother figure. Like I think of her and my grandmother having a conversation in heaven today.
Yeah.
Like Pat Summitt had a lot of the same qualities, like that maternal grandmother kind of figure who felt like an institution in all of our lives. And it takes a special person to be a celebrity who makes you feel like you're friends with them, even though you may have never met them a day in your life. Yeah. And that was certainly Dolly Parton. So the first time I ever saw Dolly Parton live, it was my sister's college graduation from Tennessee. And Dolly Parton was the graduation speaker in 2009 at my sister's graduation. And my brother actually told the story on social media yesterday. It was the only time ever that Tennessee had to limit who could come to graduation to just friends and family, or I think just immediate family or something like that, because so many people just wanted to come see Dolly. So the fun thing that she did, she came in singing Rocky Top at the beginning of her speech, of course. And at the end, she says, all right, well, now it's time to go to your 9 to 5, and everyone processed out, and she performed 9 to 5.
That's awesome.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, I was only able to see her once, which it wasn't even really live. I mean, it was live, of course, but she wasn't really performing. It was the Tennessee and Georgia game a few years back.
Yeah, I was there too.
When her and Peyton Manning came out. And that was really cool to see. That was the first time I've laid eyes on her, and just the reaction that the crowd gives, the reaction that social media gives is like, oh, we just saw Dolly and this and that or whatever. And she, of course, comes out and says, hey, y'all, it's Dolly.
It's the best.
Man. And you cannot think about Tennessee without mentioning Dolly.
It's true.
So to say that she's the grandmother and kind of like maybe the grandmother of Tennessee makes 1,000% the most sense.
Yeah, she was a queen, and her reign, long may it continue. Yeah. Absolute queen of the state of Tennessee. I mean, it's incredible in today's era of social media. We could put a poll out there that says, is the sky blue? And we will get many people who will say, no, it's not, you idiot. We could put a poll out today saying, do you love Dolly Parton? And 100% of you will say yes.
Yeah.
100% of you. And you're right. In an era where it is hard to unify people, unification over the love of Dolly Parton was quite easy and quite common.
Yeah.
615-737-1045 is our number. Live for the 1045 The Zone Circus Sports Studio. Kentucky's largest sports book can now be found at Circus Sports at Kentucky Downs. Headlines from your Tuesday morning over to Wednesday. Coming up next, a Tuesday Titans practice report. Arion Carter's suspension reduced, and the SEC finally waking up. We'll talk about all of it coming up next. This is the only thing we can do this morning is to play Dolly Parton. Oh, just fantastic. R.I.P. The absolute best Tennessean there ever was. Passed away yesterday. Ramon Will at 104.5 The Zone. Will Bowling and Justin Hawkins. Ramon back with us tomorrow. We'll be joined by Austin Peay head coach Jeff Ferris coming up in 10 minutes. Week 0 really starts tomorrow. Austin Peay Gardner-Webb tomorrow night. And Austin Peay taking on Blaze Berlowitz and Vanderbilt next weekend. Maybe we can get coach's thoughts on that a little bit as well. Yesterday, over at the Vanderbilt Health Football Center, the defense got the better of the offense. There was no doubt about it. And you know what? I'm kind of okay with it. Maybe I'm coping, but a good day for the secondary, I think, is just fine right now. Titans made a bunch of plays. Cornerback Alante Taylor, safety Kevin Winston Jr., safety Tony Adams, and corner Mario Goodrich III all had interceptions yesterday. Cam Ward, 7 of 16 on the 7-on-7 and team periods. Kevin Winston Jr. picked off a pass early in practice. Alante Taylor got him then in the next period. It was just kind of all defense. Really outside of a couple of nice plays and 2 touchdown catches by Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Cam Ward and Wan'Dale Robinson, taking a step forward and starting to build a little bit more chemistry. But, you know, Justin, I'm just okay with the secondary having a good day right now because however you spin it, and if I spin it one direction, one side's going to be on top, one side's always going to be on the bottom between the, obviously, quarterback and the secondary. But both Cam Ward and the corners need confidence right now and need to be making more plays. And as long as one of them is, I'm content. Yesterday was a great day for the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of want a little bit of a balance. It seemed like the offense as a whole, whether it be the first team, second team, or third team, they all struggled. So the defense as a whole just had a really good day, which theoretically is really good for the team because they just have struggled. Cardinal Tate's had his way. Wan'Dale Robinson's had his way. Calvin Ridley has shown some spark. Like Ayumaner, they've all. But yesterday was kind of that little setback, or maybe for the defense, you would rather say it's a get back, practice for them, as a get right practice for them because they've struggled as of late against the Seahawks or whether it be the 49ers. Like now, that's a good practice to jumpstart you for tomorrow against the Bears. But at the same time, you do kind of want to see this offense kind of continue to show some kind of consistency.
You do. Nick Singleton returned to practice after missing a week with injury. Good to see him back out there yesterday. Had a lot of runs, obviously, but also caught 3 passes, including one that went for a touchdown. Mitch Trubisky had a short touchdown pass to Singleton. Actually, I think he had multiple to Singleton. 13 of 19 for Trubisky. Tony Adams intercepted him. Will Levis, good, 9 of 13 with 1 interception himself. The interception to Mario Goodrich. Keldrick Falk remains sidelined as he continues to work his way back. I don't think there's a ton of negativity around his injury, though, and Robert Saleh has been open speaking to the media about him getting back for week 1. 3 other Titans didn't practice either. Kalel Mullings, linebacker Dorian Mausi, and center Andre James. You could see Mullings working on a side field. At this point, running back is my most interesting position battle, though, because Mullings' injury maybe opens the door a little bit more for Julius Chestnut, who I think has had a terrific training camp and has maybe helped his stock over these last 3 or 4 weeks more so than anybody else on the team. I would have a hard time finding a player who has put themselves in a better position on this roster by what they have done on the practice field and on the football field in 2 preseason games than Julius Chestnut.
He's also just the stability guy, right? I mean, heck, Bones Fossil said yesterday he's the guy that does everything well for them.
Said he was an elite special teams player. Said he has the highest grades on special teams than any coach he has coached in a regular season.
Yeah.
I think he's making the team.
Yeah. When you get that kind of comments from your special teams coach, as well as the production that you showed in the run game in preseason, it's going to be hard to not find your way on this roster.
I think, too, we attribute a lot of the Titans' special team success last season, and rightfully so, to Bones Fossil and to the coach that I think loves special teams more so than any other human who's coached football in forever. But part of the reason why he is such a successful special teams coach is because of the say that he gets in building the roster. When Bones says, I want Julius Chestnut, I think you give Bones Julius Chestnut. And I think there are two players who I feel confident about making this team as special teamers, Bryce Oliver at wide receiver and Julius Chestnut at running back.
Yeah,
I think both of them have a spot. Now, the question then becomes, are you going to not have Kalel Mullings on the roster so quickly into his NFL career simply because of rotten injury luck and that someone else as an undrafted player in Chestnut has kind of taken that job over? That's where the roster math gets a little bit more challenging.
I mean, right, you don't want people to lose their job because of injury, but also you got to play the numbers game, okay? Pollard and Spears, they're a lock because they're always going to be on the field. You got Nick Singleton, who's your recent draft pick. Typically, you keep your recent draft picks.
Well, there is 100%.
And then you got Julius Chestnut, who's being like he's a preseason star, right? It's not the first year that he's done this.
That's true.
He did it last year. He's done it the year before. There's a reason why he stays on this roster. It's because he puts in the work, and then he's a special teams ace kind of thing, right? So Kalel Mullings has got his work cut out for him. So if he can find his way back on the field, I mean, he's behind the 8 ball at this point, but it doesn't mean it can't be done. But also at the same time, when we go through roster projections next week, how many running backs do you think is on this team?
4.
Right. So right now he's not on the team.
Right.
Yeah.
And also we don't know the extent of the injury. Like maybe there's a world where he starts on IR and
See
they
the hip pointer?
Kick this can down the road. Yeah.
Yeah. So those things can be very lingering, right? Because the way that it is, it's a muscle that is on it's the point of the iliac crest on your hip, right? So you got several muscles around the hip, yada, yada. If he's taking a helmet, a knee to the hip, what it does, it is kind of separates those fibers on the muscle, on the bone. They've torn a little bit.
So there's a lot of anatomy talk before 7 in the morning.
Yeah, well, this is just where my brain goes when I talk about little pieces like that. It's hard to heal. You contribute it to like a bone bruise, but also like a soft tissue injury as well.
Yeah. Mike in Cleveland comments, let Spears go. I don't know about that.
Why would we do that?
He's a starter. I essentially view Tajay Spears as a starter at this point.
I think they're going to find some very cool ways to incorporate him in the passing game and the run game as well.
I think that's the plan. Going to connect with Austin Peay head coach Jeff Ferris as we give him a call and get him in the mix here. Talk about Austin Peay and Gardner Webb coming up here in just a moment. But, yes, not a great day for Cam Ward yesterday. Concerns are kind of what they are. I don't blame you if that concerns you. What I would say is this, and myself as a human tries to find the positive. Practice is just kind of that for Cam Ward right now. It's practice. The goal for him is to take the good things that we have seen consistently on the practice field and translate them to game settings. So there's not a whole lot more that I can see from the practice field from Cam Ward that's going to move the needle for me a ton right now, positive or negative, because it's always going to come with the caveat of, okay, well, we need to see that on Sundays. We need to see that under the lights in Nissan Stadium, and hopefully we see some better play here sooner rather than later. Tomorrow night, under the lights in Forterra Stadium, we're going to watch Austin Peay versus Gardner Webb. Week 0 college football back. And we've got the head coach of the Govs hanging out with us here this morning. Jeff Ferris, kind enough to join us here bright and early. Coach, good morning. How are you?
Will Ramon, fired up. Always a highlight to be on 104.5 The Zone.
Coach, we are fired up for football to be back. Ramon is out today. He'll be back with us tomorrow. So I'm excited to just talk about this team with you, Coach, and talk about tomorrow night's matchup. What have the last couple of weeks been like? How has fall camp been as you guys build another team and reload after a really good season last year?
Will, I couldn't be more impressed. I've been fortunate to be a part of some special football teams, both at Duke and UCLA, now here at Austin Peay. And I've never been around a group of player leadership like this one. And, we'll see, we talk about process over results, but every step of the way, any adversity, we use the GPS catapult technology. By every metric, our guys are working harder, faster, all of those things than any team we've had here. So I'm really, really excited. We're going to have a tremendous opportunity tomorrow night against a high quality Gardner-Webb team to learn a lot about ourselves, and I can't wait.
Jeff Ferris, head coach at Austin Peay, our guest this morning on Ramon and Will. Coach, you guys win 7 games last year. That's the 5th largest leap by a second-year head coach at FCS last season, and you guys built a lot of momentum. How did the way last year go change the offseason for you and your group? Where did you see that momentum help you guys at the practice field and in the weight room?
Yes, a lot of real momentum there, Will. 6-0 for the first time since 1949 at home. First time ever with an FBS win and a ranked FCS win. And at the end of the day, our guys, we retain 60 players because they know that this group can be special. And we've got unfinished business, and that starts tomorrow night. And like I mentioned earlier, this group is special. I think if we've done anything really, really well here, we've attracted great young men with high character, and they're fun to coach every day.
Your quarterback, Chris Parson, is a player I have watched since he was in high school. Yeah, right here
in County product.
That's right here at Ravenwood. We had a lot of 104.5 The Zone high school football games of the week that he played in for the Raptors. How much better, Coach, can he be this year? And I say better. It's going to be hard to top last season and how great he was, but what does that progression look like for Chris this offseason?
Well, the crazy thing is people forget Chris started one game prior to Austin Peay. One game. They played Texas A&M, and it did not go well. So, not for Chris, but for the team at large, his progression from really starting one game to what he was able to do in year one is mind-blowing. And then I think the progression from year one to the start of year two start is even more impressive. I think we're going to see some of that tomorrow night. And it's not all on him to make every play, but he looks like a guy who is in his 4th or 5th year in the system. He's in his 2nd year. And we've given him a lot of, responsibility at the line of scrimmage because he's shown us over and over again he can handle that. We run a pro-style offense, and we're going to put more on his plate. And he's been very, very impressive. Just, the way that he can articulate things that he sees, the adjustments that defenses are going to make, and get us in the right play. He is extremely sharp, and maybe as sharp as any quarterback we've had pre-snap, anywhere I've been.
You bring back Jaden Robinson at wide receiver, your leading returning receiver in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. Who else, Coach, is going to step up on the offensive side of the football? Who are some of the names that we're going to hear a lot this season?
Yeah, well, Jaden, very excited to have him back. I think a lot of playmakers, not only at receiver, but at tight end and running back, which, I love to be in multiple personnel groups and attack defenses in a lot of ways. So, Jackson Head's a returning captain, comes back, first-team all-conference player at tight end. At receiver, Marvin Sims, Denver Harper, Nate Garnett. I think we've got a good pool there of guys that can change the game and score from a long way away. And then at running back, I think we've got the deepest running back room we've ever had here. And it starts with Caden Williams, Isaiah Groves, Cortland Simmons. Corey Richardson's had a great offseason. And I do think that we are bigger up front. And I think we got a chance to run the football.
You guys picked up 28 sacks last year, Coach. 3rd highest single season total in program history. I know a lot of those guys have moved on. So how do you reload there and get after the quarterback? How do you feel about the way this defense has progressed through camp?
I think maybe our defensive line has been the biggest improvement from year 2 to year 3. Coach Moody, we hired Darian Moody from Sanford. He's done an unbelievable job. And, some of those impact transfers have played extremely well through fall camp. David Portu, he was an all-conference player at Charleston Southern. We have not blocked him one time in fall camp. So I'm excited for him to go against an opposing offense. But even the returning guys like Torrey Hamilton, Altorian Sandifer, a really, really good group up front. Their play has really improved, and I'm excited for our front four.
It's really cool to follow your program's momentum, Coach, and just see the way things have grown up there in Clarksville, and you know as well as anybody, that community is booming, just like almost every community here in Middle Tennessee. What is your vision, Coach, long term for what Austin Peay football can be as you look to continue to build this thing and grow with the community of Clarksville?
We've talked to our team all offseason that we're going to change the limits. And, what better example than Clarksville, Tennessee, and Austin Peay State University? There's nothing that we cannot accomplish here, and I firmly believe that. And if you've just, I've only been here, this is going on year 3, but how this place has changed, how this community has supported us, how our football team has changed, I truly believe, well, there's no limit to what we can accomplish. Yesterday, one small example, we announced a jersey patch partnership with Mitchell, Ross, and Rocconi. Those guys are awesome. And at every opportunity, every turn, they step up for our student athletes. And that's just one group in town. But we've got a town full of supporters and community that wants our guys to have an unbelievable student athlete experience. As proud as I am of the FBS wins and all this stuff, our team broke a Austin Peay community service record last year, and we're going to blow that record away this season. GPA records, all of them. These guys are winning on and off the field, and a huge reason why is our leadership with Dr. Licari and this community support. It is special.
All right, Coach, I'm not trying to look too far ahead, and I know you are all in on Gardner-Webb right now. But
all in, baby.
Next week at Vanderbilt, Coach, I don't need a scouting report yet. Maybe we get you back on next week to talk more about this matchup. But how does that help?
Honored.
How does that help you guys in camp? And just how does that raise the level of focus and motivation to know, hey, yes, we are all in on Gardner-Webb week 0. Let's make sure we're focused on the first opponent first and foremost. But also, hey, we've got a really big opportunity right down the road against an SEC opponent in week 1 as the rest of the sport kind of joins in as well.
Yeah, well, we're good buddies, known each other for a long time. We talk a lot about process, and our first opponent is us, regardless of who we play tomorrow night. And, I think our guys do as good a job as any group I've been around at buying into the process, stacking days. But I'd be a liar if I told you that they don't think about those things at times. I think we go on the road last year to Athens, Georgia, between the hedges, and we fight toe-to-toe till the fourth quarter. We have a first and goal from the 5, and if we score, it's a one-score game in the fourth. I think if you're recruiting the right guys, Will, they want to play in those environments. And, obviously there's going to be a bunch of familiarity with the roster at Vanderbilt because of the location, the proximity. A lot of our guys have probably played against those guys at some point, but, our guys expect to go in any environment, college, NFL, and win the football game. And they've earned confidence. So, I'm tremendously excited about this football team. We talk less about opponents than, probably anybody in the country because it is all about us. And we're really, really excited to play a very talented Gardner-Webb team tomorrow night.
I love it. Tomorrow night, Austin Peay and Gardner-Webb. The college football season gets started 6 o'clock at Forterra Stadium. Coach, it is great to hear your voice. Great to talk ball with you. Let's pencil that in next week to preview a big one in week 1 too. Appreciate it.
Will, love you guys. Thank you so much for all you do.
Yes, sir. Jeff Ferris with us. Let's go Peay is right. Appreciate Coach joining us here this morning. I love his energy so much. I love that we can get him here in the first hour. Helps wake me up. Absolutely.
I'd like to see one of his locker rooms.
Imagine being a player.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely. Love Coach. We will do that again next week. And I think Vanderbilt fans would enjoy that as well.
Yeah, when I got him on the phone, he immediately said, "Oh, yeah, I got Vanderbilt next week." I'm like,
yes,
"Oh, yeah, we're looking forward to it."
Absolutely.
Trust me.
Against Blaze Berlowitz and the Commodores. So maybe we can get a little scouting report from Coach next week. Good stuff. All right, coming up next, Arion Carter's suspension has been reduced. We're still not doing common sense in the NCAA, but at least one good thing comes out of this story. We'll talk about it coming up next. Honoring our queen, Dolly Parton, all morning here on Ramon and Will. 615-737-1045. Rhett Bryan going to join us here in 15 minutes. Justin Hawkins, Will Bowling. Ramon back tomorrow. I do have one request this morning, Justin. When the 9 a.m. hour starts, just fade down whatever our open is after the big voice guy says our names and just play 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
Yeah. There'll be radio stations all around the country, rightfully so, playing 9 to 5 at 9 o'clock this morning. We will be one of them. So Arion Carter is going to get to go to his 9 to 5 1 week earlier. Not my best, but it was right there for me.
I like it, though.
It was right there for me. Suspension reduced to 1 game. He will play against Georgia Tech. That's the headline here. Arion Carter got some help from Danny White yesterday. We talked about this yesterday, that Arion Carter did not go the lawsuit route, which I found interesting. Surprised me. It always felt like Arion Carter probably could have sued and won, considering the other wins that are happening in court. And instead, it felt like some sort of negotiation happened between Danny White, the NCAA, Tennessee being involved here. Obviously, if you are unfamiliar with the story, Arion Carter was suspended by the NCAA for a $427 flight that was paid for by his agent during the NFL pre-draft process. Carter repaid the flight, but the NCAA still handed down the 2-game suspension after it ruled he committed a level 3 violation. So he will simply now just miss the Furman game. This is the second time that a $400 flight has had a suspension reduced. How in good faith can you, the NCAA, admit that you were wrong or that your penalties were archaic and made no sense twice and still have some kind of suspension? It's because the NCAA doesn't act in good faith. They act in their own self-interest, and they are spineless people who often implement and enforce archaic rules. But I think this is the best compromise that honestly makes sense for both sides, because I'm not sure how much Arion Carter was going to play against Furman anyway. That was kind of the vibe I got reading about this yesterday, and Austin Price tweeted it 18 hours ago. He said, this has been in the works before Ari Wasserman wrote about it, before it kind of got picked up nationally. Said, keeps Arion Carter healthy going into Georgia Tech. He would only play so much against Furman anyway. Here's what I think happened. I think that Tennessee saw an opportunity for a more realistic win and took what they could get, knowing that maybe they could push for the suspension to totally be negated, and maybe there's a chance that you win. But on the off chance that that doesn't get over the line, you miss Arion Carter for Georgia Tech. So I think Tennessee tried to meet the NCAA in the middle here and took a more realistic win to say, all right, there is some sort of violation that happened here, whether it be archaic or not. But the important thing is that when we go to Atlanta, Arion Carter is playing football for the Vols and playing linebacker for the Vols. So let's take the win that we are more confident in, because you are going to see, we've talked a lot about the vanilla flavor this week. You are going to see as vanilla of a defense as there has ever been when Tennessee takes on Furman. I don't think Jim Knowles has shown a thing in what his scheme is, the different pressure plans, the different places where he's going to bring the different pre-snap pictures that he's going to show Furman quarterbacks that could benefit Georgia Tech to see. You're not seeing any of that. And so patience is a virtue. I think it makes a lot of sense to just give an olive branch and say, yeah, this is the stupidest rule that's ever existed, and you guys are idiots, disrespectfully.
Yeah.
But let's just take the easy win.
And this was the headline anyways, right? To miss the first P4 game of the season. Wasn't it initially a 3-game suspension that went to 2?
That is correct.
Okay, so...
And that's Kennesaw State who
right,
played
so like
as the third.
You're only missing the 1 P4, but it was the ramp up to the first SEC game, which was Texas.
These are the closest things that college football has to preseason games.
Right.
Respectfully to Furman.
Right.
Like, this is a preseason game. You got to hit somebody before you take on Texas.
Right. So this is just a plea to say, look, there's a lot of dumb rules in the NCAA right now. NFL players are coming from NFL, playing in a preseason game, getting sacks, getting $50,000 bonuses, and then coming back. Now, of course, we're adjusting.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, now we're adjusting that, which is, thank goodness for that. But it's just, how can you, in good faith, say, no, this is okay, but no, you know what? $427 that your agent paid for? No, you know what? That's where we draw the line. That just made no sense. But this is kind of one of the classic cases. You know what? Okay, cool. We'll take the one game. Furman, he's probably going to play a quarter or a half anyways. That's fine.
I mean, if you reduce a suspension twice, I don't know how you could even have any sort of suspension. Like, that is the thing that now I think makes zero sense from the NCAA's perspective.
They're just trying to hold on to it.
How on earth could you admit twice that your rule is dumb and yet still enforce some sort of rule here? No idea. I think from the Tennessee perspective, like, it feels like this was the ask, simply knowing that he wasn't going to play against Furman very much. From the NCAA perspective, like, it's still just so dumb. So
The NCAA is just trying to hold some kind of credence that they still have power.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have power.
They got nothing.
They have nothing.
They are a house of cards. So the SEC officially took action yesterday against pro players, like you mentioned. Meetings with presidents, chancellors, and athletic directors resulted in an unanimous vote in a lawsuit that was allowing NFL, NBA, potentially even WNBA players in the future to come back and play college sports. From my understanding and the reading I did of this last night, this does not impact Tennessee transfer from Vanderbilt Jalen Washington, as he had never played in a game for an NBA organization. So the rules say previously declared for the NFL, NBA, or WNBA draft and did not appropriately withdraw applies to players who signed a contract with an NFL or other professional football league, NBA/G League or WNBA or affiliate team, or been listed on an NFL, G League, or WNBA roster. And the commissioner is authorized to enforce this expectation with penalties against member institutions. So it's a kind of an ambiguous rule. The reason why conferences can do this and the NCAA can't is because you don't have to be in a conference. The NCAA has a monopoly on college athletics. In order to compete at the highest level in college athletics, you have to be a part of a member institution in the NCAA to earn. However, you don't have to be a part of the SEC or the Big 12. Like, the reason why this doesn't stand up is because conferences aren't monopolies. So that is why conferences have the authority to do things like this, and the NCAA does not. Conferences are not expected to lose battles like this in court. So good on the SEC following the Big Ten's lead. It used to be that way, but it is now.
Notre Dame's joining.
Well, yeah, but don't give them credit. They're just following the lead, too.
They're ACC.
Everyone's following the Big Ten right now. Never thought I'd see the day. 615-737-1045. Rhett Bryan joins us next.
7:01. Good morning, live from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs studio. I'm Justin Hawkins. Big news in the SEC in college sports yesterday as the SEC joined the Big Ten in its unanimous opposition to athletes leaving the NFL and returning to college teams, swiftly passing a new rule that gives Commissioner Greg Sankey the full authority to enforce it, with penalties that have yet to still be announced. The rule also will apply to the NBA and WNBA as well. Also on 3 is reporting that Notre Dame and the Big 12, they're also going to align with the SEC and Big Ten in this opposition. In Vols football news yesterday, senior linebacker Arion Carter's suspension was officially reduced from 2 games to 1 game per Tennessee's athletic director Danny White, as he announced to VolQuest. Carter will now just miss the season opener in Knoxville as they take on Furman September 5th, but will play Week 2 against Georgia Tech in Atlanta. For the Titans, they're off today, but camp will resume tomorrow as Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears will come to town for joint practice as their preparations will continue as the preseason finale is Saturday night at Nissan Stadium with a 5 p.m. kickoff. For all you foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Away we go into hour number 2 of your Wednesday morning. Justin Hawkins spinning the hits. Ramon Foster back tomorrow. Will Bowling here with you in studio, joined a little bit earlier this morning by the executive producer of Titans Radio, Rhett Bryan. Going to talk about what happened at yesterday's practice. Look ahead to joint practice tomorrow with the Chicago Bears on Rhett, what will be the final practice of camp.
A final one where fans can attend.
That's right.
Yeah, the end of camp is here, and all that's left after that is the third and final preseason game, the final preseason game ever at current Nissan Stadium, and then a massive roster cut on Sunday by 3 o'clock.
It is a big week.
I mean, you can kind of tell the tension is there. It's in the air. And it is this time every year with camp because this is guys' livelihoods we're talking about.
Definitely.
And, for the Kalel Mullings of the world who's, got a hip pointer and has been sidelined and, you see that part of it. And I heard you and Jayhawk talking about it in the first hour. You flip that to the other side with Nick Singleton, who missed some time and then showed up in practice again yesterday. So, and that's in one position group battle, on the back end of that stuff. But I am, like pretty much everybody in Tennessee and in the world this morning, have a heavy heart with the loss of Dolly Parton.
Man, me too. That is a tough one. And we talked about it in the first hour too. Like she had the gift of making you feel like you were friends with her.
Well, let me say this. First of all, for those attending the final preseason game Saturday night at Nissan Stadium, there will be a moment of silence for her, as should be. She earned that. So it's well documented, her very, very humble beginnings in Sevierville in East Tennessee. I mean, they had nothing. And she turned that into a global name, global act, global empire, and perhaps her greatest legacy is the Imagination Library. Her father could not read or write, and in honor of him, she started Imagination Library, which is all you got to do is sign up for it, and your child gets a book every month in the mail to your home at no charge until they're 5 years old. 300+ million books have been distributed to push the initiative of literacy and learning to read. Her father, when he passed, said, that's the greatest thing you've ever done, my dear daughter. To do that in my honor, that's the greatest thing you've done. And then we hadn't got to her songwriting prowess, her singing ability, her performing ability, the philanthropy. I mean, she was a one of one, period.
She absolutely was, Rhett. And her just ability to connect with people was phenomenal, whether it was writing a letter to 3-6 Mafia after they beat her for an Oscar and saying, I'm just glad this award's coming back to Tennessee. Whether it was...
Look at the people that she collaborated with. I was listening to her catalog.
Yeah, me too.
As I was taking a long walk yesterday afternoon, just kind of thinking about what she's left behind. She did works with Sia, with most recently with Sabrina Carpenter. Like, she was cool.
She was.
To multi-generations, she was cool. Mm-hmm. And it's evident by what you see, like watching Channel 2 this morning and all of the flooding in of tributes and people commenting. I mean, when Marshall Mathers, when Eminem chimes in, and Oprah Winfrey, and it's a who's who, and she was universally loved. She just was.
How about her letter to John Ward that the Vol Network put on social media yesterday when John Ward retired? Did you see this?
I did not.
So she wrote John Ward on November 3rd, 1998. This letter said, Dear John, I hear that you're retiring after 31 years as the voice of the Vols for the University of Tennessee. It seems like only yesterday that you were trying to tell me what to do in Knoxville when I was singing on Old Man Schultz Hour on WBIR TV, and you were one of the show's producers. It really is true what they say, time flies when you're having fun. She adds, I know the folks will really miss listening to you and Bill Anderson every Saturday during football season. I know my road manager, Don Warden, always listens to you while we're traveling around the country in my bus. It's like you are the voice of family. If you get bored with retirement, give me a call. I hear you're a pretty fair gardener, and sometimes we have openings on the landscaping team at Dollywood. I have a lot of influence with the folks over there, you think? And I could put in a good word for you. John, enjoy your retirement. Again, congratulations on more than 30 great years as the voice of the Vols. Love, Dolly.
That's
November 3rd, 1998, a letter from Dolly Parton to John Ward when he retired with the Vol Network.
Now, the gardening and the botany part of it.
Yeah.
And it's well documented there, but if you don't know, the guy we reference as the man, John Ward, he very much enjoyed having beautification of his property. And his home was frequently on the Parade of Homes tour annually. What people may not realize is in his closing credits after a ball game, those credits to producers or whatever were actually his gardeners that took care of the
wow.
Yeah.
Never knew that.
They were Easter eggs.
Wow.
Yeah, he would credit the people that took care because he loved, rose gardens and flowers and all of that stuff. And those people that took care of that and made it look, worthy of being on a parade of homes in the Knoxville area every year, they were in his Easter egg closing credits of a Vol broadcast.
That's amazing.
How about that?
That's amazing. Honestly, losing Dolly Parton yesterday felt a lot like when we lost John Ward. Really, to me.
How about when we lost Coach Mack about 4.5 months ago? Because the similarities are eerie. I said it when he passed. He was our football Dolly Parton because he never met a stranger. He always made you feel like you were the most important person that he was speaking to at the time, and that was legitimate and sincere. He had philanthropy in places people never knew about. He didn't have an imagination library, but he helped a lot of people. And he was universally loved. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about Dave McGinnis. I've never heard anybody say a bad word about Dolly Parton. They were a lot alike in those things. And that's a compliment to each of those people. I said it to somebody last night that texted me about Dolly. I said, I don't know if there's a choir in heaven or an Opry performance in heaven, but I know who has the star solo tonight if there is.
Absolutely.
And I do believe there is.
Absolutely.
But yeah, just, this one hits home for everybody. But I'm so glad the Titans will honor her with a moment of silence on Saturday night before they take on the Bears, because that's well earned and deserved at the same time.
From Sevierville, Tennessee, one of 12 children born in Locust Ridge, Tennessee, which is a tiny little dot on the map. Just
in a little clapboard house.
Yeah, just east of Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, right there in the middle of the Great Smoky Mountains. She was very proud of where she was from. First country singer to be nominated for an EGOT. Graduated high school in 1964. Met her husband, Carl Dean, on the first day that she moved here to Nashville at a laundromat.
Yep.
Yeah. Would wed in 1966. Would be married until his death on March 3rd, 2025. I ever knew this until yesterday. We know about Whitney Houston covering her incredible song, I Will Always Love You, that she wrote for Porter Wagner, her partner on, obviously, his show. It was not written for a love interest, was written for a friend. I never knew that Elvis Presley wanted to record that song.
He not only did he want to record it, he wanted to purchase the rights to it.
Right.
And she said, no.
50% royalties.
Not doing that.
Is what I read yesterday.
Not doing that.
You have got to have some pull to tell Elvis thanks, but no thanks. I mean, that is unbelievable.
I think she knew her worth and value.
Absolutely.
But certainly when it came to things that she penned and wrote. I mean, there's a lot of people that didn't even know that was her song and that she did that originally. She was forever grateful for Whitney Houston. She said, Whitney made me a lot of money because
absolutely she did.
In the early 90s, the Bodyguard soundtrack, that summer or that period of time, it was number one on the Billboard charts for about 13, 14 weeks. Still one of the best-selling movie soundtracks of all time. It still gets played somewhere every day. I mean, that version is unbelievable. I remember as a little guy, a small child, being at my grandparents' house watching the Porter Wagner show with her in tow. And I don't know, I just think about she's one of the people I've never met and wished I did, just to have just a little piece of Dolly that everybody got that was lucky enough to be around her in her presence. And then learned that, she had a brief battle with cancer, had died at the Vanderbilt Cancer Facility here in Nashville yesterday. Was admitted, I think, on Friday. You're starting to see the tribute, like down at the Walk of Fame, there's flowers and candles. I'm sure at the Storyteller Hotel that is not open yet, will open here in just a few days. I'm sure there's probably some there. You're going to see a lasting memory. Her memory will be kept alive by everybody else, just like we will do with Coach Mack. I mean,
no
it's
doubt about
that kind of thing. And, of course, Mack would say, Brett, shut up. I'm not Dolly Parton. I'm a football coach. I'm like, okay, that's true. But the qualities are there.
Absolutely.
The similarities are there.
I think it's a really good comparison. If you were putting together a Tennessee Mount Rushmore, Dolly Parton is absolutely on it.
There's no question.
No question about it.
The lady's a national treasure.
She is.
I mean, her philanthropy alone puts her in a category of very rare air. And then when you pump in all of what she did as an artist and an entertainer, it's just, she was the complete package. She really was.
Red, I told Will this. I shared this with him. I learned a story yesterday about Dolly's birth. Do you know how Dolly was born? So the doctor that birthed her was Robert F. Thomas.
Okay.
They could not afford the fee to pay him. So do you know what they offered instead?
I don't know, country ham or something?
It is a sack of cornmeal. That was the trade. In their lone little cabin in Locust Ridge, Tennessee, they offered just a sack of cornmeal, and he obliged. Next thing you know, here's Dolly.
And that is a very common story in Appalachia.
Yeah.
When money was hardly ever talked about, or there were items you traded and barter. One of the endearing things about her that people loved is she made fun of herself.
Yeah.
The makeup, the wigs, the boobs, all of that. One of the funniest things she used to tell was when she lived in that little cabin, and she said, we didn't have any running water. We had a number 3 wash tub you took a bath in. And she said, you'd wash as far down as possible, wash as far up as possible, and then you'd wash possible. She was hilarious, man. She had
really
had
funny.
a great sense of humor.
She did. She absolutely did. One of the all-time great Tennesseans who was so proud to be a Tennessean. I think that's what really
and
made her
exemplary
relate.
of that. Like she's the shining star of Tennessee.
The best of us, there is no doubt about it.
Yep.
Rhett Bryant in studio with us, the executive producer of Titans Radio, as we continue here in hour number 2 on Ramon and Will. We'll dive into what happened at yesterday's practice. The most interesting position battles still left to be decided over joint practice tomorrow and a Saturday preseason game with the Chicago Bears. Rhett Bryant, Will Bowling, Ramon and Will, 104.5 The Zone. What's going on? It's Will Bowling. Do you have a plumbing issue at home? Whether it is a leaky faucet, a clogged drain, or a water heater that's gone cold, the plumbing professionals at Lee Company have your back. Available 24/7 year-round, Lee Company's licensed technicians can save you time, money, and all the stresses that come with that ill-timed plumbing issue. Maybe you've had that sticky note up on the fridge, things to do around the house. You've been putting it off. You've been procrastinating. Well, here's my advice. Just get Lee Company out there to fix things for you. That leaky faucet, the clogged drain, the water heater, they're going to be able to take care of all of that for you. And they've been taking care of Middle Tennesseans for over 80 years here in Middle Tennessee. Lee Company's been trusted since 1944. They can help you. You just got to head online to leecompany.com. Schedule an appointment there online for their award-winning team to help you out at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company. All you need. There is a very good chance it gets a little dusty in here at some point this morning. I was listening yesterday, Rhett, and they were playing, I forget where I heard it. It may have just been, I had my Apple Music on shuffle of Dolly Parton songs. And I heard her duet with Brad Paisley, When I Get Where I'm Going.
Oh, boy. You talk about, oh, man.
I was going to get dinner with Peyton. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it through the second chorus safe here.
Yeah. And she has a lot of songs. She's an eagle when she flies.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's some that just, it's like, this really hits home when you start listening to it after she's not here on this earth anymore.
It does.
By the way, I was thinking about this driving home yesterday afternoon. It's very fitting, and I'm going to mention this in the broadcast Saturday night. Kickoff is at 5 o'clock. She clocked out of her last 9 to 5 this week. Mm-hmm. It's very fitting that the boys in Titan Blue take over at 5 o'clock.
I love that. That's a great point. We're going to play
because normally that wouldn't even be a thing at all. That's a wacky preseason start time. You know, yes, they have played on a Tuesday afternoon because of COVID, but I'm just saying, under normal circumstances, that wouldn't even be a thing. It's very ironic and fitting that is because she 9 to 5, man.
That is very ironic.
That was a huge theme for working people. Still is.
No doubt about it. Man, the absolute GOAT. What a legend.
Ooh-wee.
What a legend. All right, Rhett, what was your biggest takeaway from Titans practice yesterday, a day where the defense got the better of the offense?
That's it. Defense won the day. It's just that simple. Now, listen, everybody's going to just jump into all of this and peel away the layers and tell you, this is cause for great concern for Cam Ward and da-da-da-da. Listen, defense had a day. That's what this is. Does Cam Ward have stuff to work on? Absolutely he does. But what gets lost in this? There were 4 interceptions yesterday on the defense. Kevin Winston Jr., who I cannot wait to see him line up in week 1 because dude is healthy and he is going to be something else at the back of this defense with Amani Hooker. But he had a pick. Alante Taylor had a pick. Mario Goodrich had a pick, and so did Tony Adams. But it was by all 3 quarterbacks. The first 3 quarterbacks. It was Cam Ward. It was Mitch Trubisky. It was Will Levis. It wasn't all Cam Ward. That's the first thing that you got to take into account. And you can call me a cheerleader, whatever you want. I don't care. That's the truth. And this is just one of those things where ebbs and flows happen in training camp practices. And some would say, well, that's towards the end of training camp. Well, yeah, that's true. Still doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I mean, listen, they were doing stuff yesterday prior to all the 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. They're preparing for the Bears joint practice tomorrow. They were doing that. They were putting in the work yesterday because it's the final tune-up for all of this. But the defense had themselves a day. And when you look at how some of it broke down, yeah, some of it was, some right place, right time, gimme stuff. But, man, those DPs were fighting to take balls away, too.
They were, Rhett, and I think that is the other side of this entire roster that people are most zeroed in on outside of quarterback. It feels like with some of the progression on the offensive line, still questions there, obviously, but with the cleaner pockets that Cam Ward has had to throw from when he's been on the field, maybe a lot of our attention on the O-line has been shifted to the secondary, considering 2 quarterbacks have gone 12 of 14 to open up the 2 preseason games. Things have got to be a little bit better from the secondary, from linebackers and safeties and run fitting, with Jacardia Wright going for 69 yards for Seattle on the second drive. Yep. And Robert Saleh's been open, and he's said it to the media, we have a higher standard, and we've got to play better. That is better yesterday from the secondary. That's the kind of day I think we've been waiting for. Yes, it comes at the expense of not only Cam Ward, but also Mitchell Trubisky and Will Levis. But right now, it's the math you do in training camp. A good day for one side is a bad day for the other, but at least it is a good day for someone. And it is a good day for a unit that needs to stack some good days right now.
Well, and Gus Bradley, they had all the coordinators available yesterday morning before practice. And Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator, talked about just how they have been pressing this Titans offense. And that's a byproduct. When they get around the football and have a day like they did yesterday. But look, I don't think any of us know exactly what this is going to look like against the Jets September the 13th in week 1. And on purpose. I mean, they've talked about how vanilla things are. They hadn't really shown much. And so that's why I'm reserving judgment on anything till I start to see some real stuff. But like I said, there are things for Cam Ward to work on. He'd tell you that. That's why he's been there since before the rooster crowed this morning.
Right.
And he has pretty much I mean, he told Taylor Zarza yesterday he spends like 14 hours in the building. I mean, he's just, I talked about him earlier in the offseason. People talk about a gym rat or a film rat. He's a building rat.
He is.
Like, they can't run him home. He wants to. And for those out there listening this morning, you're like, but where is the want to get better and to, see things translate onto the field for it to be? And I'm like, it's going to take a little time. Like, let's see where we're at. I wish we could snap our fingers and everything be great.
I do think one thing that is improving is his connection with Wan'Dale Robinson. And those guys are starting to get on the same page. You saw a couple of those catches against Seattle, those quick hitches over the middle of the field where Wan'Dale's able to find the zone. 3 more catches yesterday, a couple of touchdown catches, and Jim Wyatt now has Wan'Dale Robinson with a team best 52 catches in camp, including the 2 joint practices with the 49ers and Seahawks. So Wan'Dale Robinson has spoken about how much he has helped Cam learn this offense, with how much he has been in it. I thought it was interesting when during Sunday's preseason broadcast on Titans radio, Peter Skoronski was visiting with Ben Jones down on the field. And maybe the most interesting thing that he said was when Ben asked him about Austin Schlottman. I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but the gist of what he said was, we would be lost without him.
Yep.
Understanding this scheme. Actually, that is word for word what he said.
Yeah,
he said,
I heard the same
we
thing.
would be lost without him.
Because he knows this offense.
That is the hope once you get into the real scheme and into regular season, into game planning, into saying, all right, the opponent's giving us this. I now want this. In return, more of that obviously is going to start in the regular season. I'm not going to guarantee you that it's going to click right away. It may still look like a work in progress against the Jets, the Eagles, the Giants, the Ravens. It may take till after the bye week, as it did last year, for Cam Ward to really feel comfortable in a live game setting within this offense. But I do think, Rhett, that you do have a player on the offensive line level, at the wide receiver and skill position level, who are acting like player coaches within this system right
Daniel
now.
Bellinger being another one of those too.
Right. I think there is some value in that.
There 100% is. First of all, what you say about what the first month of the season may be like for the Titans, that can be said for the whole damn league. I mean, the first month of the season, because of the offseason and the preseason being so different now with, counted padded practices, no more 2 days, all those things, you really don't know who's who in the zoo, as Mac would say, until you get 4 or 5 games in. And that's why it's so important, and it sounds elementary, but it's true, to stack a win as early as you can to try to separate yourself. Wan'Dale Robinson, this is no revelation. Wan'Dale Robinson's going to catch a lot of footballs in this offense. Good Lord willing, creeks don't rise, and he's healthy, and all of those things. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if he caught 80, 90 balls. I mean, he's had 90-plus balls, the last 2 years in this offense? So why would that be any different?
What is the most interesting position battle, Rhett, left on this roster as we head into cut day?
I think it's the running back end of it. I mean, that's where I would start. And when you think about who are the potential core special teamers, because you're the one that pointed out to me, and I went back and listened to all of that yesterday afternoon, what John Bones Fossil said about Julius Chestnut, about the scoring system and how he's highest scoring point scorer in his system in 18 years of being a coordinator. That's value. That's something you can't, teach. That's been learned. And, he spoke glowingly about him. And the Bryce Oliver of it, he spoke glowing. He said, man, before he got hurt, he was one of our gunners and just an enforcer. And then he talked about his improvement in the punt and kick return part of it. Like your nose and your trail follows the money in certain things, follow the special teams path in this, because that's where some of that stuff's going to be answered. But I say the running back end of it is very interesting. And by the same token, the wide receivers, do they keep 5? Do they keep 6? I don't know what where do they bolster somewhere else? Because it's the numbers and the position groups is how this thing all works out.
And we always give the disclaimer, Rhett, every year that if you are a vested veteran and have a certain amount of service time in the NFL and you make a 53-man roster out of camp in week 1, then your contract is guaranteed throughout that season.
Mm-hmm.
So you now have a larger financial hit on your franchise that is guaranteed from weeks 1 through 18 when you were a vested veteran on the roster for week 1. So really, you could almost argue that week 2 is a little bit more of your clearer picture on what your roster is going to look like for the season, because teams will try to push through some of those vets. You get a certain amount of veterans on the practice squad as well, try to push some of those through, or also go window shopping on other waiver wires and other rosters. And swing tackle could be a spot, Rhett, where their swing tackle could very well be on someone else's team right now.
So there's a couple things. If I'm not mistaken, and if it hasn't changed, 3 years and 3 games is what you need to be a vested veteran. And, the Julius Chestnuts of the world are knocking on the door of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. Whatever the final roster is Sunday afternoon is going to be different from week 1. And to your point, because of the vested veteran part of it and the monies and the financial part of it, week 2. Because all of a sudden you've got 4 digits worth of guys all out in the same pool looking for work for one massive cut. Now, the Titans have an international path exemption, so they go from 91 to 53 like that. Well, so are the other 31 teams. And I'm sure that Mike Borgonzi and Dave Ziegler, Reggie McKenzie, and all their staff has an eyeball on all of the potential cut candidates in a wish list for things like swing tackle, for things like whatever they feel like is a necessary place they need to bolster this roster.
Those pockets just haven't been clean enough when Will Levis has been out there. I wonder if they either feel like they have got something in Rasheed Miller or Emil Wagner to be able to try to stash them on the practice squad and develop their next swing tackle. Brennan Crenshaw-Dixon, I think, is someone who they like and someone who right now I would say is the third tackle on this team. But is there someone who becomes available who they feel like can be a fourth option? Again, you may be thinking to yourself, like, why are we talking about fourth tackles? There is a 100% injury rate, especially at offensive line in this league. And there are no teams that are going to play with these same 5 from every snap from week 1 to 18.
Well, let's take it a step further. You're not in salary cap jail. So
no, you're not.
You still have to be fiscally and financially responsible. And that's why it's important about what you mentioned with if you are on the roster in week 1, that counts on your cap.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other teams who are not as fortunate because they have large contracts tied to whoever. And unfortunately, somebody gets let go just because they can't, every once in a while that happens. And, you still got a decent run in the pecking order of things to be able to go get somebody that may actually help you, that may be better than what you have on your final 53.
Right. Let's go to Johnny in White House, who wants to talk about Dolly this morning. What's up, Johnny? Good morning.
Good morning, guys. A beautiful day here in Nashville. Hey, listen, for all the younger group out there, for the people that are super young, don't really know a lot about Dolly, let me tell you something. There is this term that we all use in life, and it's called "there'll never be another." You will never, ever see another Dolly. You'll never see another Michael Jackson or Elvis or the Beatles. Dolly's up there in those, like, mega, out-of-this-world superstardom. She was so much bigger than music, and I think that's, obviously we're a little bit homers, because she's from here, but there's just never going to be another DP, man. Y'all have a great day. I love you guys. I don't care how well or how bad we do in preseason. I will always be a Titan, man. Tighten up. Love you guys. I hope y'all have a blessed day.
All right, Johnny. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
He said to the Titans, "I will always love you."
He did. He absolutely did. Very apropos.
I love it.
We got some good stuff in the F&M Bank chat here, too. Said, Red, I know it's tough. What was your favorite Dolly song? Or you do top three, not in any certain order.
Ooh.
Well, I would say Jolene is in that top three. Here You Come Again, because that was a 70s hit of hers that was, I'd go back to my childhood immediately. I know where I was when I heard that song.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure I Will Always Love You has got to be right there in that. And I don't know that you can compartmentalize it to just three, because I can think of 15 more songs of hers that I would have on a loop.
Definitely. 9 to 5.
Oh, God.
When I Get Where I'm Going. She actually had a song on Post Malone's country album a couple years ago that I loved. Have the Heart. It's one of her last songs she ever recorded, unfortunately, that I loved a couple years ago. Yeah. Not as much a classic, but a good one.
She's just so cool, man.
The best. The absolute best. I've said it earlier, I'll say it again. We could run a Twitter poll asking if the sky was blue and get more no responses than we would for Do You Love Dolly? Mm-hmm. I think we'd get 100% yes responses.
She would win that poll in 100%. A landslide. Absolutely.
100%. 615-737-1045. As we continue, what does Rhett Bryan want to see from Cam Ward if he takes the field in a final preseason game, and when he takes the field tomorrow against the Chicago Bears? We'll talk about that coming up next. When Kimberly and her husband decided to sell their home and build a new one, they weren't sure where to start. Then Bernie Gallerani Real Estate came to them. And for the very first meeting, the team arrived prepared with market data on recent sales in the neighborhood and a clear picture of how much their home could be worth. What's up? It's Will Bowling. Bernie Gallerani and his team walked Kimberly through her options for selling while building, and suddenly the whole thing felt a lot less overwhelming. Here's the best part. Kimberly had her heart set on one specific builder in one specific neighborhood, but the team encouraged her to explore a few more options. One of those recommendations turned out to have her dream home in her perfect neighborhood. Clear communication, honest guidance, and a plan that actually works. If you're thinking about selling, building, or both, call Bernie Gallerani Real Estate today and see what the right team can do for you. And have you heard about Bernie Gallerani's guaranteed sale program? He guarantees to sell your home in 30 days or less, or he'll buy it. Check it out at BernieGallerani.com. That's GALLERANI. You can call him at 615-428-2644. That's 615-428-2644, online at BernieGallerani.com. If you have a 2, 3, or 4% mortgage rate, don't refinance it. You don't have to. You can still get cash out of your home, though. Introducing Loan Pronto's zero-cost equity loan. What's up? It's Will Bowling. That's right. With Loan Pronto, get all the cash you need without touching that first mortgage, without any fees. One local homeowner just got $100,000, paid off all their credit cards, paid off their existing HELOC, remodeled their kitchen, and saved over $1,500 per month. It gets better. There's no hard credit pull up front, usually no appraisal, no long, drawn-out process. And listen, no closing costs. You may even be able to skip your next 2 house payments. Call Loan Pronto now. Leave your low-rate mortgage intact, but get the cash you need in as little as 2 weeks without paying closing costs. That's online at loanpronto.com. See how much you can get right now at 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or online at loanpronto.com. For qualified homeowners, equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. Ramon Will rolls on. Rhett Bryan, Will Bowling, 615-737-1045. On 3 with some details on college football quarterback salaries. And there is one quarterback of the SEC who is the most valuable quarterback in college football. I've got that for you coming up here in 15 minutes. You know what else I've got for the people, Rhett?
What
in
else?
15 minutes?
What?
A family 4-pack of tickets to see the number 1 team in MLS, Nashville SC, host FC Cincinnati this Saturday.
At the Castle.
Plus, it gets better, a $50 gift card to Fog Street Lawn Club as well.
Well, they can have what is that burger they have that's so good there?
The Irish barbecue bacon burger.
Yeah.
It is one of my, if not my number one right now,
lawn bowling on the roof.
favorite burgers in Nashville.
Yeah.
It is so good. And they have cold Guinness on draft.
4-pack to go see the boys in gold
Against Cincinnati, their original rival this
at
weekend.
Geodis Park.
That's right.
And $50 to spend it. Come on, man.
That's exactly right. That's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. So we got a family 4-pack coming up for you here in just about 10 minutes. Let's go to Matthew and Franklin real quick before we talk more about Cam Ward. Matthew wants to talk about Dolly. What's up, Matthew?
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm really enjoying the show today.
Thank you.
Go back to a memory to date myself, the Johnny Carson show. Dolly was on there, and Johnny said, Dolly, how do you keep such a trim figure? She said, well, honey, nothing don't grow in the shade.
I love it. I love it. She had a lot of those one-liners, didn't she?
Yes, sir. She was an angel.
God
bless you, boys. Have a good one.
Thank
All
you,
right, Matthew, thank you.
Appreciate you.
She was an angel, and she did. She had a bunch. There were Dolly-isms like there were Mac-isms. That's for sure.
I love that comparison you made. That is a perfect comparison. Perfect comparison. So, Rhett, tomorrow, Titans and Bears, and Saturday night, the final preseason game in the history of Nissan Stadium, like you mentioned. Remains to be seen what we'll see from Cam Ward. Don't know if it's going to be a similar plan, if we're going to see him at all. I would assume maybe, but who knows how that plan
based on
will
what
have
Robert
changed.
Salas told us,
Right.
You would think he'd get some snaps in that final preseason game.
You would. What would be an ideal final preseason performance for Cam Ward?
In a perfect world, a long, sustainable drive to start in their first possession that ends in a touchdown, whether it's throwing to Daniel Bellinger, Carnell Tate, whoever, whatever. But I want a passing touchdown from him, and then if they say, "Yep, that's a wrap," let's get ready for week 1. But I'd like to see him go do that and then get the ball back and do it on a second possession. If they were to have some success like that and just churning, then I would call it a wrap and say, "Yep, let's put a bow on this and let's get ready for September 13th."
I think it's a good way to look at it. I just think leading a touchdown drive right now, having that kind of confidence. I said yesterday, I'm willing for them to go one half a step beyond vanilla schemes to get Cam a little bit of confidence. And Kurt Warner did a great 50-minute breakdown of Cam Ward's first 2 preseason games. I tweeted it out last night at Will_Bowling. I think it is a must-watch for Titans fans because it is real, tangible, good analysis on Cam. The biggest thing that he talks about is footwork within all of this. There are still a lot of moments where Cam Ward is either looking down to see pressure and missing what the picture is downfield and then prematurely bailing out of the pocket when he's got something on the backside of a play, or his feet are pointed one direction and he's missing outside to the right because he's just throwing with his arm and not his full body. Mm-hmm. He's not fully putting his back foot in the ground, stepping into the throw. I've made this comparison before. If you were a golfer or if you've taken golf lessons, you hear a golf coach or instructor say, use your big muscles. Don't flip your hands. Don't use your arms. You are going to have a more repeatable and consistent golf swing if you turn your body and use your big muscles. I think the same exact thing can be said for quarterbacks and the mechanics of throwing a football.
Well, first of all, Kurt Warner would know. He's done it. He's a Hall of Famer, world champion, even though it was Super Bowl 34.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But all of that is fair because the footwork that's a place to work on. And, I'm not a Cam Ward apologist. I'm just telling you, I'm not alarmed at anything yet. The guy hasn't had enough time in all of this. Like, yes, he played almost a full rookie season, but that was a different coaching staff. That was a different scheme. Like, you can call it excuses. The thing is, it's the truth.
Right.
We don't have enough
time to figure it out.
We don't have enough sample size in what this is now to start making judgments on everything. But yes, there are mechanics to work out. And the footwork, if he gets that straightened out, will be a good friend to him.
It was funny. Somebody responded to Kurt Warner. He tweeted out when he tweeted out the link yesterday. Said a lot of people hoping for a big second-year leap from Cam Ward, like we saw from Drake May and Caleb Williams last season. There is a lot to like about Cam, but a few things he will have to get better at if he makes that jump. And somebody responded and said, respectfully, I've seen enough. He's not it. And Kurt Warner responded and said, respectfully, he's in his second year. Give him a chance. Cam Ward, if he was sitting in here with us right now, Red, would be the first person to be the absolute hardest on himself and say, I haven't been good enough in preseason.
Well,
I think that's part of what we like about him is that I don't think there is a big head involved here. Like what he's going to say to the media, he's going to exude confidence. As much time as we've been around Cam Ward, I think Cam Ward is harder on Cam Ward than anybody else. But I also think this is why you hired Brian Daboll. And you don't just throw this narrative out the window the first time things get a little bit hard with Cam. The thing we were most excited about when Brian Daboll was hired as the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans is that those two guys speak the same language and that he is going to be able to have some hard conversations and tell Cam, no, listen to me, I know better than you. Mike Borgonzi has told me in multiple interviews that we've done on Titans Radio, yeah, they're kind of the same person, Cam Ward and Brian Daboll. In a lot of ways, this is where Brian Daboll's coaching job really starts. Now we've got game film. Now we've got tape. There's no guarantee that it's going to immediately be fixed or if it's ever fixed in week 2 from a footwork perspective and a mechanics perspective. I'm not trying to tell you that it's automatically going to be great, but this is why you hired this coaching staff, and this is why Brian Daboll is here to make these corrections in the film room. So let's give him time to do his job is all that I am simply asking.
Let me say this. There's somebody in the chat here. The quarterback clock doesn't reset every time there's a coaching change, Rhett. I beg to differ on this one because this is a whole different deal. And I'm not saying, I mean, look, the clock is what the clock is per his contract, and that's a 4-year deal as a first round pick and the number 1 overall pick with a 5th year option until something else changes. But this is a little bit of a reset on the clock for him because so much has changed. And I think you're fooling yourself if you think otherwise. Because Cam Ward would have to be a whole lot worse than what we've seen for that to even be thought about. Mm-hmm. Listen, we live in a society that is full of expectation for instant gratification. No delayed gratification in anything. And we're all guilty of it. But some of this stuff just takes time. I don't know what to tell you.
It's just the reality of where we're at this point. I know fans aren't happy with how bad things have looked in preseason from Cam at times. There have been some good moments too. He gets time to fix it. Like it or not, he is going to get the time to fix it, and it's going to be interesting to follow exactly what that looks like when the regular season begins. There are better moments. He is showing improvement on the practice field in standing and delivering from the pocket. Now we need to see that translate onto the game field.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're talking about is you need to see consistency and you need to see transitive value in a real playing situation that results in successful drives and points on the board. That's where we're at.
Thank you, Rhett Bryan. Good to see you.
All right. Good to see
Appreciate you. One final preseason broadcast from Nissan Stadium this weekend. Award-winning Titans Countdown begins at 4 with kickoff at 5. Can't wait. Coming up, we got 4 tickets for Nashville SCFC Cincinnati plus a $50 gift card to Fog Street Lawn Club. And I'm going to tell you who the most valuable quarterback in the SEC is, according to a report from On3's Pete Nakos yesterday. Coming up next.
8:03. Good morning, live from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs studio. I'm Justin Hawkins. Big news in the SEC and college sports yesterday as the SEC joined the Big Ten in its unanimous opposition to athletes leaving the NFL and returning to college teams, swiftly passing a new rule that gives Commissioner Greg Sankey full authority to enforce it with penalties that are still to be announced. The rule applies to those previously declared for the NFL, NBA, or WNBA draft, signed a professional contract, or been listed on a professional team or league's roster. Vols football news yesterday. Senior linebacker Arion Carter's suspension was reduced from 2 games to 1 per Tennessee's athletic director Danny White. Carter will now just miss the season opener Knoxville as they play Furman September 5th, but he will be able to play week 2 against Georgia Tech in Atlanta. NFL news this morning, Adam Schefter reports that Giants wide receiver Calvin Austin suffered a season-ending torn ACL during Tuesday's practice. He signed a 1-year, $1.5 million deal this offseason and was there to help replace former Giants and now current Titans wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson. Also, per Ari Myrov, the injury includes multiple torn ligaments and it will have a long recovery ahead. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once, and you're home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second half of the show starts right now. Beautiful Wednesday morning in Music City. Glad you're with us on Ramon and Will. Tomorrow, Ramon will be back with us. Joint practice with the Bears. I forgot, because it's obviously been a year since the last time I was at a joint practice from last season, how much fun that is last week. It is sensory overload in the very best way. Look to your right. Titans offense. Snap, play, look to your left. Titans defense. Snap, play. All right, look back to your right. There is no downtime to scroll, to have conversations. It's not media social hour. It is football and then football and then more football and then more football. And there are members of the media I like to talk to quite a bit. I'm not trying to take any shots.
Talking about getting your football fix.
My goodness, it is so much fun. I can't wait for tomorrow. Cannot wait for tomorrow. Final dose of that we get in training camp this year, and final practice of training camp for us to be out there for. It's a big week.
It's coming up on us quick.
It always does.
I feel like, geez.
It always does. We've got some tickets to give away to see the league leaders, Nashville Soccer Club, take on FC Cincinnati this weekend. And this is a great deal. If you are a soccer fan or if you're not a soccer fan, we have got you covered today. Family 4-pack of tickets to see Nashville SC host FCC and a $50 gift card to Fog Street Lawn Club. If you're a soccer fan, we got you covered for Saturday night, and then you can take that gift card, go to Sunday Premier League morning, go to Fog Street, watch some games, have a breakfast beer, have a Guinness. I'm giving you permission to have a Guinness at 8 in the morning to watch whoever's on Sunday. And you could use that gift card, have a great brunch, have a great burger for lunch. Caller number 5 right now wins the family 4-pack and $50 to Fog Street Lawn Club. 615-737-1045. 615-737-1045. A family 4-pack plus $50 to Fog Street Lawn Club. Best of luck. Boys in gold off to the races this season. The best 21-match start in Major League Soccer history. They are on pace to scare the 80-point mark. I believe on pace for 79 points as they sit here right now. No team has ever reached 80 points in the history of Major League Soccer, and they have got a shot. Bill Connolly is going to join us coming up here in just about 15 minutes. ESPN college football writer, talks about college football from the numbers perspective. And yesterday we got some contract numbers. Contract numbers that tell me a couple of things. First and foremost, there is a most valuable quarterback in college football. And his name is Gunnar Stockton. Now, I'm not saying Gunnar Stockton is the best quarterback in college football. I'd probably put him 4th, 5th, or 6th in terms of the best QBs of the SEC. But when Pete Nakos writes it on 3.com yesterday about the value of what quarterbacks are being paid around college football, how in the world is Gunnar Stockton getting what he is getting? Darian Mensah, the Duke transfer, is at Miami. $6 million plus, according to On3. That includes incentives. He is one of the highest paid players in college football history, and for good reason. 68% completion percentage last year. He led Duke to its first outright ACC championship since 1962. You win an ACC at Duke, you get $6+ million. And he is a part of maybe one of the most dynamic and fun offenses in college football this year at Miami. Malachi Toney, Darian Mensah, Mark Fletcher, a Alex Mirabal and Mario Cristobal offensive line. What we talk about? I mean, this is as good as it gets. Dante Moore at Oregon, around $5 million. 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns. I got no issue there. Trinidad Chambliss, they had to keep him. $5 million for him. Sam Levitt making roughly $4.5 million. Very fascinated to see what that looks like. And then you have a big group of quarterbacks around $3 million. Byron Brown transferring from South Florida to Auburn. C.J. Carr at Notre Dame. Bryce Underwood at Michigan. Anthony Colandrea at Nebraska. I think Tennessee fans should make note of what that number is for Bryce Underwood because number one recruit in the country, number one quarterback in 2025, comes in as a true freshman, shows you enough promise. That may be the ballpark you're in for Faison Brandon this time next year if things go well. Faison Brandon ranked as a recruit similar to where Bryce Underwood was coming out of high school. Anthony Colandrea getting $2.5 million for Nebraska. Gunnar Stockton is going to make between $1.5 and $2 million to play quarterback at Georgia, according to On3.
His stock is up.
We live in a world, Justin Hawkins, where Jared Curtis, having never taken a college snap, is making more money, or at least the same amount of money, as Gunnar Stockton. That is a world that we live in the year of our Lord 2026.
I didn't realize Vanderbilt would pay for that. Like
that. You have to.
For a freshman? Faison Brandon's not even making that much.
That's true. Faison Brandon not mentioned anywhere in this article. So we don't know what Faison Brandon's making. He may be making around that much, but I don't think that he
I think it's around $1 million, maybe 1.2-ish.
That would be my guess, but again, I don't know that. I think that's a lot of money for a guy that wasn't guaranteed to even start this year. He went out and won the job in camp. That's also a lot of money for Vanderbilt to pay a quarterback to sit on the bench and hold a clipboard, which is, again, why I think Jared Curtis is the Vanderbilt starter when they go to Auburn. Again, schedule kind of set up for them to start with him early. And I still believe that if I was a betting man on this, I think Jared Curtis makes his first Vanderbilt start when they host NC State in Week 3 at 11:45 a.m. local time. I think that is the ideal world because after that, you move into a 3-game stretch of at Auburn, at Georgia, home to Ole Miss. I'm not sure I want him making his first start in any of those 3 games. Because let's face it, and again, this is not from a place of disrespect. I'm not trolling you. This is the reality of it. That Ole Miss game is going to be played at home. You're still playing in a road environment. That is still a tough ask for him to make his first SEC start. He can make all the throws. He is as talented of a quarterback as has ever stepped foot into a Vanderbilt locker room the day he got fitted for a helmet and shoulder pads. But there is a big learning curve from Nashville Christian, from any high school, not just Nashville Christian, not just that division, but from the competition he played against to the SEC. That is true if he was a quarterback in D2 AAA, D2 single A, 6A, 3A, whatever it is. That's just a really tough jump to make. And I think Blaise Bertlowitz allows Vanderbilt's offense to look more like the Diego Pavia Vanderbilt offense and rely more on the option, the deception, the intricacies of what Tim Beck and Jerry Kill will have taught their quarterbacks. Blaise Bertlowitz can step in right now as a master's level student in this system as a senior. I was not surprised at all seeing that news come out yesterday.
Well, see, that's what I was about to ask you.
I was not shocked. I'll say I was a little surprised. I was not shocked.
If the competition is similar to what Tennessee went through and you've got a true freshman versus George McIntyre, who's in his second year and essentially has never played a good, decent snap for Tennessee.
And that's the difference.
But it's not really even experience at that point, but Blaze Berlowitz does have experience in what was it, New Mexico?
New Mexico State played there in
yeah.
2023. I don't think it is comparable whatsoever. I think this narrative that Pete Thamel put out yesterday is completely off base to say that George McIntyre is a veteran who Faison Brandon beat out for the job. Blaze Berlowitz and George McIntyre are very different in the reasons why one or the other is or isn't, as the incumbent player, being put in as the starting quarterback. Blaze Berlowitz has been in this system for years.
Right.
Going back to multiple stops ago and going back to New Mexico State. George McIntyre's thrown 9 passes as a Tennessee quarterback.
The only pushback, though, is if you're going to start him against NC State like what you're suggesting, why not go ahead and take your lumps against Austin Peay week 1 instead of playing both quarterbacks?
He will.
He's not starting, though.
Yeah, but I think he's going to play a lot. I think he's going to play a lot.
If you're already, it's not like they're coming out and saying they're committed to him, but I would just go ahead and start him and then play Berlowitz in the second half. Kind of vice versa.
Here's my other question, though. Can this be a 2-quarterback system all season?
I don't think you want it to.
Are you going to ask? Well, no, but here's what I mean. Like, does Blaze Berlowitz with his legs and with his athleticism always have some kind of role to play in this offense? I can see a world where that is the case, and you ask Blaze Berlowitz to run a lot of the Diego Pavia plays in short yardage, in red zone, with the option game where you are making a lot of snap decision and reading keys of the defense in confined space where the decisions have got to happen quickly and you've got to make the right reads against SEC defenses. Vanderbilt does not have the pure talent level. This is not a criticism. Hear me when I say this. This is not a criticism. I think it's the reality. Vanderbilt does not have the blue chip players to line up and beat high-level SEC opponents without the deception and the scheme that Jerry Kill, Tim Beck, and that offense brings you. Last season with Diego Pavia was a great example. They were a better version of Paul Johnson and Georgia Tech. And I mean that as a compliment. They utilized deception and scheme. They schemed guys open. Diego Pavia was an elite level decision maker and athlete and was able to raise the bar for them as a football team because he could operate outside of a scheme that was still getting him one-on-one with defenders. He was winning those one-on-one matchups. Jared Curtis has elite traits, elite potential. Blaze Berlowitz allows you to still run that same kind of deception, option, veer out of the pistol type of offense that can scheme up guys wide open within the RPO game. And I think Blaze Berlowitz right now, clearly, is better at making decisions for this offense than Jared Curtis is.
I get that. It's just...
Can this be Chris Leak, Tim Tebow? Except I think ultimately Curtis will be the one playing more. He would be more like Chris Leak, and Berlowitz would be the more short yardage run game Tebow. That being said, Jared Curtis is a big dude, and in short yardage, it's going to be hard to take him off the field. So, again, not a perfect comparison, and I know we got to wrap up because we got Bill Connolly on the other side, but I'm fascinated by the breakdown here because I think there's a role for Blaze Berlowitz to play in this offense all year, and I don't think that necessarily means, Jared Curtis must not be worth the money. Tennessee fans taking a victory lap right now that your freshman is starting and Vandy's isn't. I think we got to cool it with that. This doesn't necessarily mean Jared Curtis isn't worth what they paid. It's just a little bit of a different process, and they've got a quarterback who's more familiar with that offense than Tennessee does.
And it helps him with his development, especially early. It kind of reminds me of Malik Willis and how the Titans try to use him a little bit in some packages on offense. He wasn't going to be the quarterback, but they could use him as in the run game.
Maybe, yeah.
And some trick plays.
ESPN's Bill Connolly will talk about that with us coming up next. His numbers at ESPN.com love the Tennessee offense. We'll talk about that with Bill coming up next. Ramon Will continues here on 104.5 The Zone. Of course, Dolly Parton this morning. We wouldn't play anything else. Justin Hawkins, Will Bowling, Ramon will be back tomorrow as we connect right now with ESPN's Bill Connolly. Going to talk a little bit of college football here this morning. Thank you, Dolly. We appreciate you. Tennessee ranked 4th in S&P Plus at ESPN.com. Bill Connolly does a great job with all of those numbers. Numbers that, again, and he'll tell you this as well, not gospel, not primary stats, but they do tell stories that are interesting. Opponent-adjusted metrics. The final preseason SP Plus rankings just came out just last week, so a great time to catch up with Bill and talk about all of these things as Justin continues to effort that. So it was interesting. He writes about this at ESPN.com. 6 teams last season overachieved their projected win total by at least a game and a half last season. I'm curious to ask Bill who these teams are this year, who he feels like are most likely to overachieve. Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Oregon, and Texas A&M were the 6 teams to overachieve their win totals by at least 1.4 regular season wins a year ago. 2 teams significantly underachieved, Clemson and Penn State. Who is that team in the top 10 or in the top 15 that is most likely to underachieve? It's going to be interesting because somebody always does. And there is, unfortunately for those fan bases, always a Penn State or always a Clemson. Obviously now we have just stopped expecting things like that from Clemson. Do we have an update on Bill, Justin?
It's not going. I can call him on my phone, but I cannot call him through the station phone. So we're trying to figure that out. He's restarting his phone, and then we'll go from there.
That is odd. Okay, lovely. Can we get him on Zoom?
That is an option.
I guess that would be our next option. Okay, well, Bill is answering us, just not on this phone. So that's fun. That's the first time I've heard of that happen. I'm curious, too, what the numbers look like for Tennessee with Faison Brandon at quarterback versus George McIntyre, or what kind of difference that makes. We've talked about this a lot. The numbers and the returning starters for Tennessee on the offense, I think, give Faison Brandon a really good platform for success. I think you can make an argument he's walking into a better situation than Keelan Russell is at Alabama. Not to guarantee that Faison Brandon is going to be better than Keelan Russell is at Alabama, but run game, 4 out of 5 members of the offensive line returning, top 2 wide receivers coming back. Depth at wide receiver is going to be a really interesting proposition for Tennessee this year, but here's the question we don't have on Faison Brandon yet. How slow is his heartbeat away from Neyland Stadium? That is the question on that, because I think there are a number of games this season that are swing games for Tennessee, and his ability to lead the Vols into a place like Columbia, South Carolina, into a place like Fayetteville, Arkansas, swing games for Tennessee this season. They've got to win in order to meet their goals. The thing that obviously is going to go beyond numbers that we don't have the answer to yet until we see maybe that first game at Georgia Tech. After the glorified preseason game, they're going to play against Furman here in a couple of weeks. ESPN's Bill Connolly joins us right now. We'll talk about all this with Bill as we continue the college football discussion. What's up, Bill? Good morning.
How are we doing? I'm doing pretty good.
Good to have you on. You got just me here today. Ramon's out. So maybe a little bit more time to nerd about the Premier League at the end of this and the soccer season. As you know, I always got to throw in one question for you at the end. But I want to start locally, Bill, with Tennessee and with Faison Brandon now being named the quarterback. What do the numbers and the SP Plus think about Tennessee on offense now with a true freshman and a talented one in Faison Brandon as the signal caller?
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. I mean, it doesn't know, like, from a formula standpoint, like, who's replacing Joey Aguilar. It just knows that Tennessee basically returns its entire offense except for Joey Aguilar, and that's a pretty good place to be. I mean, this is, you've got a proven skill core. Most of the offensive line returns, and a lot of those players were really good last year despite being freshmen and sophomores. So that all points to very good things, but obviously there's kind of a smaller margin for error when it comes to playing such an inexperienced guy, and we'll see if they can live up to that. But I mean, SP Plus has been pretty bullish on Tennessee overall, 14th overall in SP Plus, and if the defense kind of progresses towards the mean after a strange collapse last year, then they're in pretty good shape.
Bill Connolly of ESPN, our guest. You had this piece at ESPN.com 2 weeks ago. Tennessee 14th in the SP Plus of these final preseason rankings, 4th offensively, which I found really interesting. What is it about the Heupel offense, Bill, that is so conducive for freshman quarterbacks to have so much success?
Right. I mean, you think maybe there's just a level of like speed and simplicity to it that maybe you can figure out, easier reads, quicker reads. Now, these types of things can, the better defenses maybe catch on to those things and make life a lot harder. But when you find an advantage, a Josh Heupel offense tends to make the most out of those advantages. And we've seen that plenty of times through the years. Obviously, things trailed off a little bit, but I mean, this is still like 3 times in the last 5 years they've been in the top 10 in offensive SP Plus, and they've won a lot of games in that span too. So it's been up and down, but the offense is certainly still has a lot to offer.
Bill, when you look at this defense and what Jim Knowles brings in for his first year, if Tennessee's offense can live up to that hype and be a team that by the end of the season, we're talking about as top 5 to, let's just say, even top 10 in SP Plus, the value they bring, how good does this defense then need to be for Tennessee to be a playoff team this season?
Yeah, Jim Knowles is such a hard guy to figure out because he has so much success on his resume and almost none of it comes in his first year in a given job. It seems like it takes him a little while. He wants to be as aggressive as possible, but he's got to figure out his personnel first. And we'll see that, the defensive line and the secondary have so much rebuilding to do. And, we'll see. But, I mean, luckily the bar is pretty low here. They're projected 14th overall, despite only being projected 44th on defense. So that kind of tells you something. If Knowles can actually, just get back to, they were 6th in defensive SP Plus in 2024, not very long ago. Last season's collapse was kind of a surprise, but if they even get back to like a top 30 level, even if they don't meet those offensive expectations because of having a freshman quarterback, that's still just a great all around team. And if they win some close games, they're in the playoff hunt.
Bill, when you look at Vanderbilt, I think it's funny, people trying to kind of compare the Tennessee quarterback decision and going with the true freshman to Vanderbilt going with the senior, because George McIntyre has 9 career pass attempts. Like saying that George McIntyre and Blaise Berlowitz are the same, even though they've been backups, not at all the same, considering Blaise Berlowitz goes back to New Mexico State in 2023 with Jerry Kill, Tim Beck, and being in this system. Were you surprised, though, to see that announcement yesterday that Vanderbilt is going to go the veteran route instead of the true freshman Jared Curtis?
I mean, maybe a little bit, but I mean, this is certainly the idea of starting the senior at the beginning of the year, and by the end of the year, the freshman's taken over. Like, we've seen that play out many, many times through the years. So if that's what happens here, that can't be all that surprising. And maybe there's just kind of a different level of, the Tim Beck system just maybe takes a little bit longer to kind of harness a little bit. Like I was saying, Josh Heupel has found a lot of success in keeping things fast and simple, but Vanderbilt is the exact opposite. They do not move fast, and maybe just the reads are a little more complicated and so on and so forth, and it takes a while to master. So having a guy who's much more familiar with the system at the beginning of the season, yeah, it makes plenty of sense. The hope would be that Curtis has taken this job by the end of the year, I think, and kind of started to live up to the potential everybody thinks he has. But yeah, easing him in it doesn't have to be a bad thing at all.
I think it's interesting, Bill, when you think about what Vanderbilt did so well last year. It to me felt like an elevated Paul Johnson Georgia Tech, where they're filling a talent gap against really talented blue chip rosters with deception and with basically the flex bone in a pistol set with Diego Pavia as the quarterback of that offense. With that being said, is there an element or a world we could live in to where Blaise Berlowitz always has some kind of role to play within this offense, even if it's just short yardage or red zone and kind of a change of pace quarterback? That way you still have the run game, the deception, the triple option element. I just think that's always going to have to be a part of the equation for Vanderbilt. Am I right in kind of the way I'm putting that together?
Yeah, and I mean, for all we know, Berlowitz is really good. I mean, Diego Pavia was dynamite last season. I do my little Heisman horse race thing at the end of my Sunday columns where like each week I give out a Heisman, basically like 10, and it's a running point total. Pavia won the thing. He was so good for a healthy percentage of last season that we might find out that his backup can do a lot of those same things. Pavia was so unique in a lot of ways, but from the tiny sample we know of, Berlowitz avoids pressure just as well, and maybe it turns out that he can do that. Because the one thing we know about this offense last year is that the quarterback was an enormous part of it. I mean, right. he was the run game, or the kind of the load bearing portion of the run game. He had 39 more carries than Alexander did. So. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just, you need that kind of load-bearing guy, and you need a guy who's been around and can kind of take some of those hits and whatnot, and you don't want to just throw a freshman into that situation. So, yeah, I mean, they've clearly shown that they're willing to get creative and they don't have to follow a certain script, and if that means Berlowitz it remains a red zone threat, even if Curtis is throwing a lot of passes between the 20s or something, I'm sure they're willing to do it.
Bill Connolly of ESPN, our guest this morning here on Ramon and Will. You wrote about this, Bill, at ESPN.com. 6 teams overachieved their projected win total by at least 1.4 regular season wins last year. Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Oregon, and Texas A&M. Is there a team in the top 25 who you feel like has the best opportunity to overachieve based on their preseason projections in 2026?
Yeah, this is kind of a hedging answer, but what there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 teams in the SEC projected between 9th and 29th in SP Plus. One of those teams is gonna win all their close games and go 10-2 and make the playoffs. And I have absolutely no idea which one it is. I can talk myself into basically any of them. So. That's a terrible answer, but whether it's LSU kind of combining Lane Kiffin offense with Blake Baker defense and finding immediate success, whether it's Oklahoma improving offensively and therefore becoming a far more well-rounded team, or on down the list, a young quarterback clicks at Alabama or Tennessee, the Austin Simmons clicks at Missouri. Any of these teams could catch fire, and it's just there's so many close games in the SEC. It just depends on which one actually has that kind of close game magic and closes these games out.
Bill, I think there are 7 teams. When I look at the AP poll, I look at this list, it's the same 7 teams. I think I draw the line at national title contenders. At Ohio State, Oregon, Notre Dame, Georgia, defending champs Indiana, which I'm still not used to saying, Texas, and Miami. Is that a fair line to draw to say I can confidently predict one of those 7 teams is the national title winner this year?
Yeah, even if you lop Miami off of there, they obviously have major potential, but I do feel like those top 6 are at least a little separated. But, I mean, we saw last season that, a team from outside that top class can certainly make a run. But, yeah, you give me those top 6, and I'm thinking I have at least an 80-85% chance of taking the national title from one of those 6. No question. It is kind of funny how conventional wisdom congeals at this point. Like, we know there are going to be surprises, but also it makes perfect sense that Ohio State and Oregon are the top 2, and it makes perfect sense to me that the next 4 are in some order: Notre Dame, Georgia, Texas, and Indiana. But the surprises are the best part. So we'll see who can kind of upend that a little bit.
Bill, last college football question for you. That 2 teams last year significantly underachieved in their projections: Clemson and Penn State. Is there an obvious candidate who could be kind of a letdown relative to their preseason expectations on this list this year?
Yeah, I mean, Georgia at fourth is going to play in a ton of close games. That's just kind of a guarantee, and we still don't know that they have the big play potential they need to contend for the national title and win 3 or 4 playoff games, but also they're going to be in a lot of close games. They could easily end up 8-4. I've been playing around with little season simulations over the last couple of days, and that has been they're 12-0 in one, they're 8-4 in the next. They're a pretty volatile team, and so is Texas, who has a brutal schedule that Steve Sarkisian's probably going to be complaining about after week 2, after they play Ohio State if they lose. We're going to hear all about strength of schedule arguments this year, and it's not going to be a lot of fun. But what's so funny about last season's dramatic underachievements from a couple of those teams, the 3 teams in the top 10 that underachieved the most were the 3 that returned their starting quarterbacks. Like the 7 other teams in the top 10 didn't, and they all kind of sort of lived up to expectations. So as much as we try to solve this puzzle in the offseason, we're surprised every single time. So I'm looking forward to finding out how we're surprised this year.
All right, Bill, soccer is taking over in Nashville. Nashville SC is a big reason why, because they're on pace to break the MLS regular season points record through 21 matches so far this season. But I have to throw in a Premier League question for you, because I know you're writing about this as well at ESPN.com. As an Arsenal fan, who should I be most concerned about for the title this season?
Man, the short answer feels like nobody, at least after what we saw last week. But I'm really curious about Chelsea. Xabi Alonso's awesome, and it's not his fault. Real Madrid is a giant mess of a club and fired him because the players didn't want to work. It feels like at Chelsea, especially with the last season's underachievement, and especially with Cole Palmer being as hungry as he seems to be, Xabi Alonso is going to get all the work he needs out of his roster, and while Chelsea's general signing practices are a disaster and ridiculous, and let's go out and get every single 19-year-old in the world pretty much, he's probably going to find 20 to 23 guys he really likes, and he's probably going to do a lot with them. So that's right now, like everybody else seems to be in transition and kind of messy, especially Manchester City. But if anybody threatens Arsenal, I'm almost thinking it's Chelsea now.
I would agree. I think that's good stuff. Bill Connolly, get you a sports writer that can do both. Talking about college football and the English Premier League. Always good to catch up with you. Thanks so much, Bill.
Absolutely. Take care.
Yes, sir. Bill Connolly with us here this morning, taking a look at college football from the numbers perspective. Tennessee, the 4th best offense in his SP plus numbers. Really fascinating to me. Oregon, Ohio State, and who's number 3? I probably should have looked at this before I started this sentence. That way I'd be able to find it.
Texas?
Notre Dame, actually. Notre Dame 3. Texas 9th.
9th.
In offensive efficiency in SP+. That's really interesting. Really interesting. So we'll see. We got a comment saying, didn't Tennessee's offensive line kind of get their tails kicked by Vanderbilt the end of last season? They sure did. I think an injury to Sam Pendleton, you would say getting him back healthy and having him look like he did at the beginning of the season was a big part of that. I think having a second-year jump for David Sanders this year is a reason for some of that optimism, playing at left tackle versus right tackle, and he is a mean dude on that side of the offensive line. Right tackle is still going to be a big question, though. So, again, just because those guys are back doesn't mean you automatically assume they're going to be elite. But you would think that they are building off of what they were last year and could be better this upcoming season. Coming up, we can open up for your phone calls, 615-737-1045. Let's talk more about the SEC's rule change yesterday. And I thought it's interesting. The Big Ten put out a punishment for if teams bring back professional players, this is what's going to happen to them. We'll talk about that coming up next.
A day at the spa, the perfect gift for birthdays, anniversaries, or any occasion. Lavish and luxurious, yet affordable. A grand gesture, yet simple for you. The gift card from A Moment's Peace. Give her the gift she won't buy herself. An escape, a bit of luxury. Something special that shows more than just words. A gift from A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa in Cool Springs across I-65 from Galleria Mall. Call 615-224-0770 or go online at amomentspeace.com anytime.
What's happening? What's happening, good people? Let me go on and tell you while you're walking into your weekend what you need to be looking for. That is a truck. Yeah, Mid-10 Ford, they got you covered. They're going to take care of you. All you got to do is slide in there and let them know, hey, man, Big Slay told me. And they will look out for you. Go in there and holler at my guys, Trey, Matt. They're going to be right there to help you walk through the process of going to get your truck. And guess what? It's nothing that's going to be pressure, no high pressure, just low pressure approach, no gimmicks, no pushy sale tactics. That's not what they're about. They're about getting the job done and getting you comfortable and understanding exactly what you're getting into. It's a one-stop shop. If you need service, Mid-10 Ford, they got you covered. They are the ones you need to be looking for. When it comes to the right vehicle, they got you covered. Even a body shop, service, financing, sales, they got it, all of that. All you got to do is go to 1319 Foster Avenue. Visit mid10fordtrucks.com.
Wrap it up, hour 3 on Ramon and Will. Rest in peace to the GOAT, the greatest Tennessean ever, Dolly Parton. I don't even want to talk over her voice every time you come back from break with this. I feel like I'm being disrespectful by doing my job. So good. So good. All I'm playing all weekend right here. All I'm doing all weekend. All right, so getting back to it, we've talked a little bit about the SEC and their rule change on pro players and things like that followed the lead of the Big Ten. Because unfortunately, that is what we do now in the SEC. We follow the Big Ten. It's just the reality of it. You got to call a spade a spade. And the Big Ten passed this first. Then SEC chancellors, athletic directors, and presidents met. And here is the rule. An SEC institution is not permitted to have an athlete on its roster who has ... previously declared for the NFL, NBA, or WNBA draft and did not appropriately withdraw, signed a contract with an NFL or other professional league, NBA/G League, or WNBA affiliate team, or been listed on an NFL or other professional league, NBA/G League, or WNBA, parentheses, or affiliate roster. The SEC presidents, chancellors, and ADs said Tuesday night the commissioner is authorized to enforce this expectation with penalties against member institutions, end quote. Now, the reason why this holds up in court is because conferences aren't monopolies. The NCAA, at least from a legal perspective, is seen as a monopoly. Hypothetically, if I played in the G League, if I'm Charles Bediako, let's say, and the SEC has a rule against this, but the American Athletic Conference doesn't. Well, I don't have to play for the SEC or an SEC team in order to make my money. I could just go to Memphis. I could go to Tulane. Could go play for Colorado State, San Diego State, like for the different conferences that don't enforce this. So obviously this all became increasingly complicated after a Louisiana court ruled that 16 players could return to college with eligibility for the upcoming season. Some of those players had already played in training camps before being released. The way I understand it is all those guys are now ineligible. The LSU players that they added are ineligible. And again, I said it yesterday. I don't blame Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's job that he is paid handsomely to do is to put the best football team on the field on every Saturday that he possibly can. And possibly can included Daquan Wright, the tight end for the Cleveland Browns. It was very funny saying that we have to wait until he clears waivers for LSU to officially sign him, but that is just the reality of what happened. New world. So the Big Ten NFL rule, violating that, we got punishments yesterday. That will result in a coach suspension of 50% of games and an institutional fine. On 3's Pete Nakos reported. It is similar to the one the NCAA has in place for ghost transfers. Sounds like a Bonnaroo band name. Musical guest ghost transfer. Or players who leave one school for another without entering the transfer portal. Ryan Shumpert with this yesterday. RocketTopInsider.com and Tennessee beat writer. Quote tweets the rule and says, my read on this is that Tennessee forward Jalen Washington remains eligible for Tennessee. Do not believe he signed an Exhibit 10 contract. He did play in one summer league game, but it does not seem like that would make him ineligible based on the SEC rule. He says that will be the main point of contention there, though. So maybe not something we 100% know quite yet, but we will find out sooner rather than later. Should be interesting. But that's the right move by the SEC. I mean, it's the only move by the SEC.
Yeah. For me, it's a little unfair to the guys who've been there since the spring that have kind of gone through their camps. They've busted their butts just to make the roster or to find their spot on the roster. But yet here comes a NFL guy or here comes an NBA guy that has already played a little bit or, like Jack Pyburn, has had a sack in a preseason game. 2 sacks, actually. Yeah. And now he's coming to take your spot.
I mean, how does that go down in a locker room?
It can't be good, right, for the culture?
It's one thing.
Gotta diminish it.
Like, I already feel bad enough for George McIntyre, someone who grew up a Tennessee fan, stayed home to play for Tennessee, had a battle that he came out on the losing end of. His QB2 needs to be ready, by the way, too, because he's one play away from being thrown in there, or one bad or spell of games for Faison Brandon away from maybe getting time. Hendon Hooker didn't win the battle in 21, and he was needed, obviously. So you never know.
Right.
Like, I feel bad enough for him, and that was an even fight. That was 50-50 shot.
Yep.
Snap the ball, who wins the battle? Like, imagine that spot being taken. You're a lifelong fan of a team, and all of a sudden, hey, son, come sit down in my office. Hey, this guy from the Cleveland Browns wants to play college football again. We have to take you off scholarship.
Yeah. Can you
Sorry,
imagine
buddy.
if Joey Aguilar, who's played pretty well for the Jags so far, comes back and plays for an SEC team or whatever and takes somebody's spot?
That'd be crazy. Coming up, the context, both good and bad, behind Carnell Tate's preseason start. Nick Suss with great stuff at the Tennessean that we'll react to coming up next.
9:02. Good morning, live from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs studio. I'm Justin Hawkins. Big news in the SEC and college sports as the SEC joined the Big Ten yesterday in its unanimous opposition to athletes leaving the NFL and returning to college teams, swiftly passing a new rule that gives Commissioner Greg Sankey full authority to enforce it with penalties that are still to be announced. The rule applies to those previously declared for the NFL, NBA, or WNBA draft, signed a professional contract, or been listed on a professional team or league's roster. Vols football news yesterday, senior linebacker Arion Carter's suspension was reduced from 2 games to 1 game per Tennessee's athletic director Danny White. Carter will now miss just the season opener in Knoxville against Furman September 5th, but will suit up week 2 against Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And some NFL news this morning. Adam Schefter reports Giants wide receiver Calvin Austin suffered a season-ending torn ACL during yesterday's practice. He signed a 1-year, $1.5 million deal this offseason and was there to help replace former Giants and current Titans wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson. Ari Myrov reports this morning the injury includes multiple torn ligaments and will have a long recovery ahead. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Nine o'clock. Here we go, everybody. 9 to 5 today. Gonna feel a little bit different. Yeah, this is the good stuff. This is the good stuff. I'm just gonna let this go for a minute. There was nothing else we were ever gonna play at 9 o'clock than 9 to 5. Rest in peace to the greatest Tennessean there ever was, Dolly Parton. Firmly on any Mount Rushmore you could ever make. You have your Tennessee Mount Rushmore, Justin?
Ooh, I don't know. I have to think about it a little bit.
This was going everywhere on social media yesterday. I saw so many different people that I know from different walks of life who were all talking about this. Man, it's tough. I think you've got to have Dolly on there. I would have Pat Summitt on there. I'd probably have Davy Crockett on there. And then you start talking about, like, is Elvis a Tennessean, even though he wasn't really born here? One of the former presidents. Are they on there? Do you go with Wilma Rudolph, an all-time great Olympian and runner? I don't know, man. General Nealand would be up there. Peyton Manning, does he count as a Tennessean now, even though, again, he's not native here? There's so many different ways that you can go with that.
I think it goes to the impact they've had on the state of Tennessee.
It's a good way to look at it.
That's where I would kind of start.
In that case, I would say General Nealon probably on there.
I just looked up a little article on that, and General Nealon is highly recommended to be on that Rushmore.
I would,
as well as Pat
I would
Summitt.
say General Nealon.
Yeah.
General Nealon, Pat Summitt, Dolly Parton.
It also had Peyton Manning.
I'd go Elvis. Davy Crockett. I mean, I don't know. Like, you got so many. There's so much history there. I don't know. It's a good question, though. Get the people thinking. All right. There is context around Carnell Tate's preseason. Nick Suss did a great job breaking all this down at Tennessean.com. We'll talk about this with Easton Freeze coming up as well in 15 minutes as he joins us. Easton, by the way, did you see his Twitter mentions yesterday?
Oh, about Houston?
Easton is in a battle. And I mean just a total battle with the city of Houston. They are very upset with him for correctly pointing out that they are wrongfully obsessed with Oilers colors. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I texted him yesterday and just said, "You want to come on and talk about your feud with the city of the entire city of Houston?" It's like, absolutely, I do.
He was even invited to go on somebody's show.
Yeah, I saw that. He got threatened.
Yeah.
If he didn't go on AM radio in Houston, like, or else.
Which he was
right,
like,
buddy.
Okay, well, I guess I must join then, right? And then guy never responded. It's
Of course he didn't.
And then somebody
Of
said
course
something
it
about
did.
where the colors came from, and apparently somebody did some research. It came from the light blue that Kansas used to be.
Yeah.
When Bud Adams was there.
That's
so it's
correct.
not even a Houston thing.
That's correct.
Somebody tried to point out that the cop cars back then were the light blue, and that's not where it comes from, buddy.
It's like city flag stuff comes into that. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what the Nashville city flag looks like?
The Nashville City flag?
Yeah.
I forgot what. Yeah.
See, like, I think if you polled the entire city of Houston, like what percentage of Houston residents know that their city flag has light blue in it? Maybe 10%. Maybe. It's a big city. Like, what's the percentage of people in Nashville who've seen the Nashville city flag? As many transplants as we have that have moved here, 5%, man.
Yeah.
If that. It's gold and blue.
Yeah, I just looked
It's a big reason why the Predators and Nashville SC are the colors that they are.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, Carnell Tate doesn't have a catch in preseason. Sound the alarm bells. Not. I am not sounding alarm bells on Carnell Tate's preseason. I actually, again, will recommend and bring it up. Kurt Warner's film study that he did on Cam Ward. Highly, highly, highly recommend this. At Will_Bowling, I put it out last night. It's great insight. There are plays where Carnell Tate has gotten separation and been wide open. Cam Ward is bailing out of the pocket or making a different decision more often. And then I think there are also some times where he's forcing the ball to Carnell Tate just to get him something and missing another solution on a given play that makes more sense. The last 10 receivers drafted in the top 10 before Carnell Tate. Nick Suss writes at Tennessean.com and in the Tennessean. Travis Hunter, Tet McMillan, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Smith. Now, across 31 combined pro seasons, those players have 17 seasons with 1,000 or more receiving yards. This is a very good group of wide receivers. I don't see a big bust out of any of these. Really, you could argue the one who was actually had the worst career so far is the one we thought was the biggest sure thing, Marvin Harrison Jr., who I'd probably put at the bottom of this list if I was ranking them all 1 through 10. In their collective first 2 preseason games as rookies, those 10 players, Justin, averaged 1.05 catches per game. That's it. I can run through all of these. Again, full credit to Nick Suss, who did a great job doing the research on this. Travis Hunter, 2 catches on 2 targets. Tet McMillan, 2 catches on 7 targets. Marvin Harrison Jr., no catches on no targets. Barely played in that preseason. He had 3 snaps in the preseason that year. Malik Neighbors, 4 catches on 6 targets. Okay. Rome Odunze, 1 catch on 3. Drake London caught his only target. Garrett Wilson, the most productive of these, 5 catches on 6 targets. Jamar Chase, 1 catch on 4 targets. Jalen Waddle, 3 catches on 4. Devontae Smith, 2 catches on 4. I know Blaine and Zach talked about this yesterday on Cover 2. Remember the whole thing about Jamar Chase, like not being able to catch the football in the NFL because it was a different football? How'd that work out for Jamar Chase?
Best receiver.
Yeah, it turned out okay. Listen, here's my thing. I know you guys are tired of being patient. I'm not going to tell you to be patient. I'm going to try really hard to talk about this without telling you to be patient. There has to be time given to Carnell Tate, though, and to the offense, and to Brian Dable, and to a second-year quarterback who has a new center, who has had now 3 different offensive play callers in his second season as an NFL quarterback. His clock is still starting, even if yours as a fan, as far as patience goes, ended years ago. I don't blame you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you you need to give more patience. Unfortunately, though, they are going to be given patience. Cam Ward, Brian Dable, you have to. We've talked so many times about how the type of player keeps changing that the Tennessee Titans want. John Robinson wanted different players to Rand Carthon, who has a different vision from Mike Borgonzi, who's going to draft different players for Mike Vrabel than they do for Brian Callahan than they will for Robert Saleh. You have to see the process through. And if the process is seen through and we're still having the same discussions at the end of this year, then I'm going to sit here and I'm going to advocate for them signing a quarterback to compete with Cam Ward. For those of you who will say, Will Levis wasn't given this much time, I would argue he was. He was given a second season. His meme moments against the Bears and the Jets, fitting considering those are the two next team the Titans are going to play, one of them preseason, one of them regular season, were the beginning of year 2. Then the next year, in steps, obviously, Cam Ward, and the rest is history. But if Cam Ward earns this team the number 1 pick again, I hope that doesn't happen, but if it does, we're going to have some very real conversations about Arch Manning and Lenora Sellers and Dante Moore. It's not time for that yet. I don't think it's time for that yet. This show is not going to do that. We're not going to do draft stuff. We're not going to do off-season stuff when we have football to talk about. And every evaluation tool matters here for Cam Ward. What I think you'd probably be most likely to do is then you're talking about a trade back, then you're talking about a veteran quarterback. Hey, is Baker Mayfield getting tagged? And again, we're going to be off to the races, and we're going to have plenty of time to do that. But we just got here. And I know the 2 preseason games have not been up to the standard for Cam Ward that you hoped they would be, which then in turn means that the standard has not been met for Carnell Tate because one's development is tied to the other. This is why you hired a new coaching staff. If you were someone who advocated for Brian Callahan to be fired, if you wanted Brian Daboll, if you wanted Mike McDaniel, if you wanted John Harbaugh, their job doesn't end when the season starts. In a lot of ways, their job starts when the season starts. So one has to mean the other. If you wanted a new coaching staff, then you have to give them ample time to do their jobs. And now, for the very first time, Brian Daboll can watch Cam Ward film in a Brian Daboll offense, albeit a very vanilla version of one, in the film rooms right now and correct things. I'm not going to sit here and guarantee you that Cam Ward will be able to correct them or that he's going to be the quarterback for years to come. If you were asking for my opinion, I think he is this team's quarterback for years to come. But I'm not going to guarantee you anything. I don't know yet. I'm watching this play out in real time just like the rest of you guys are. That being said, I think this is where the coaching staff really begins to coach and to correct. And it's up to them to say, Cam, why are your feet pointed at second base and you're throwing to first base? Cam, on this bubble to Wan'Dale Robinson out to the left side, where you've got a defender running at you and you've got to make a throw across the field. You've got 2 versus 2 out here, off coverage. You've got time here, Cam. Why are your feet pointed toward third base and you're throwing to shortstop? We've got to correct this. Let's get out on the practice field and let's correct it. They get time to make those corrections. Now we get to find out if they are able, as a roster, to take those corrections to games on Sundays and if it means they're going to win more football games.
Yeah, I can't
wait to find out.
There's a lot of stuff that go behind the scenes that we'll never get the opportunity to see. And those are the kinds of things that you speak of. A lot of things that you want to see as a fan, as a media member, whatever, what have you. When we grade and look at Cam Ward and this Titans offense, we're looking at the progression, right? We're going from vanilla schemes to the whole entire offense week 1, to the season game by game, and we'll see how it goes. Now, for the Carnell Tate of it all, he has been open. Cam Ward just is not able to find him. Now, if I was to offer you 68 catches this season for 841 yards, 7 touchdowns, how would you grade Carnell Tate's rookie season?
That's a good question. And I think that'd be fine.
Okay. Lance Zierlein of NFL.com put out yesterday 17 rookies to watch. Best case, worst case scenario. For the best case, it's Cam Ward continuing his second half trend of the 2025 season.
Right. Which we can't forget about, by the way.
Exactly.
Because he did have 10 touchdowns and 1 pick in his last 8 games last year.
Right. So continuing that trend, Carnell Tate becomes the primary option in this offense. Then he kind of lights it up. The worst case scenario is you kind of realize that Jeremiah Smith was the overtaker into the Ohio State offense. Carnell Tate doesn't perform up to expectations. So he gave the kind of average expectation of 68 catches, 841 for 7 touchdowns.
I think the follow-up question would be, what does Wando Robinson do? Are those wide receiver one numbers? Or is he getting 841 yards because Wando Robinson has 90 catches for, 1,100?
And this is just put into a vacuum.
Right.
Of course.
Right. We'll talk about all this with Easton Freeze, who joins us coming up next. Public enemy number one in the city of Houston. He's on a lot of dartboards right now. Maybe Oiler blue dartboards in Houston, and he will join us coming up next.
A day at the spa, the perfect gift for birthdays, anniversaries, or any occasion. Lavish and luxurious, yet affordable. A grand gesture, yet simple for you. The gift card from A Moment's Peace. Give her the gift she won't buy herself. An escape, a bit of luxury. Something special that shows more than just words. A gift from A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa in Cool Springs across I-65 from Galleria Mall. Call 615-224-0770 or go online at amomentspeace.com anytime.
Ramon Will continues on this beautiful Wednesday morning. One of Dolly Parton's last songs that she recorded, but one of my favorites. I love Post Malone, love his country, love the non-country. He's got a new album out today, too. Old mixtape he finally dropped. I love this song. Have the Heart. Post Malone and Dolly Parton. Easton Freeze joins us. Justin, let me know when we've got him. All right, we've got him now. What's up, Easton? Good morning.
Howdy. How are you?
Good. Do you think you could make friends in the city of Houston by just unifying with them over Dolly Parton yesterday? Is that maybe the way that you mend some fences over there?
Unifying with them? I don't know. I saw some Twitter ghouls making fun of the fact that Dolly passed in response to. Yeah. They're like, the Titans fans whined so hard about the city of Houston's colors that they apparently own that one of their legends died, which is an insane thing to say. So I have no allegiance or love. Like the city of Houston, I have visited once. That might be the extent of my visits to Houston in my life, aside from when I'm there for work.
That is insane. I saw some of your mentions, and I was laughing at the AM radio host who was like threatening something to you if you didn't come on his show and talk about.
I still don't know what that was. I would have, by the way. He never tried to schedule me.
Really?
He decided to call me a coward and then didn't ask me to come on the show. Which is calling someone a coward for something they said out loud on the internet and blasted all of their socials is funny. To be clear, none of that was actually serious. I think the whole debate is very silly. The Dolly part is serious and ridiculous, but the rest of it's fun to me.
Insane. Easton Freeze with us, A to Z Sports covered the Tennessee Titans. So walk people through, if you will. We will talk about the real football in a minute, because I know there are a lot of people out there that's like, I don't care what they wear. I don't care what the Texans wear. Just win. And I hear you. But what lit this all ablaze yesterday? What was your take about the Texans having jerseys that look like the old Oilers?
They took their one rivalry uniform opportunity, one of 16 teams now over the past 2 years that have gotten these. And unlike any other team, instead of trying to be inventive, creative based on their own uniform and their own history, they decided to cosplay as the current Tennessee Titans, which is embarrassing and just the latest in a decades-long lack of willingness to let go of 30-year-old history, an incident that they brought upon themselves where the city did not want Bud Adams and the Houston Oilers Titans franchise to stick around badly enough to keep them. And they seem to think that they own these colors because the city of Houston used to have like sidewalks painted blue and cop cars that were light blue, which is funny because a lot of cities had that too back in the day.
Right.
Here's the thing, because it's turned into this big like city history thing. And it's like, well, our flag has these colors, and Nashville's first of all, if you're talking about city flags, you've lost the plot. The point of this is not that Houston didn't once have cop cars and the color blue all over the like. If that color is important to you, that's fine. It's a shade of blue. Okay, a lot of cities use shades of blue. What matters is that of all 32 NFL teams, you are the only team that really is not allowed to do this, because their point is like, well, the Baltimore Ravens and the Vikings both wear purple and their alternates have. You know what the Baltimore Ravens and the Vikings have to do with each other? Nothing. They have no shared history. They just both happen to have purple. Because you're right, there are a limited number of colors on the spectrum of rainbow colors. But when you have had so many strikes against you in the past, my entire lifetime, like well beyond my entire lifetime, when this has been your whole thing, that you as the Houston Texans, an organization that really has no history or culture, when you've made it your whole thing to just be mad that the Titans exist and took the history of a team that used to be in your city, but now the Titans are the Oilers and the Oilers are the Titans, which is just true. When that's your whole thing for 30 years, you don't get to then come out with rivalry uniforms that every person on the planet is going to turn on the TV that day that you wear them and see you playing and think, hey, the Titans are on. Oh, nope, just kidding. That's the Texans wearing what are clearly just the Titans uniforms.
Right.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. So Texans fans aren't going to be embarrassed because they aren't capable of it when it comes to this topic, but they should be, because you're wearing the uniforms of a team in your own division as your rivalry uniforms, and that's a joke.
It is a joke, Easton, and I think it honestly comes at a bad time for a Texans team that has legitimate Super Bowl aspirations this year. Like the fact that we are talking about Houston in the context of them being petulant and their ownership suddenly flip-flopping on wanting Oilers history because they see social media and see that people like it. Like all of a sudden now that becomes so much of the smoke and the story around Houston, other than, hey, if this team has an offensive line and some semblance of a run game, I think they might win the Super Bowl this year.
And the reaction in Houston to the jerseys is so accidentally funny because they see these yesterday and there's so much like, are these the best alternates in the whole league? Which is them accidentally saying that the Titans' actual uniforms are the best uniforms in the league because they're the same. You're right that I think the Texans are going to rock. And the silly uniform debates aside, I think that the perception publicly of CJ Stroud is entirely off base. I think that he has the best situation around him this year that he's had in his career. The bar is low, but it is the best in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think that he is a much better quarterback than what everyone seems to everyone watched him malfunction and fall apart in what was the single worst showing he's had in his NFL career in that playoff loss to the Patriots where he just forgot how to play quarterback. And we all seem to have just made that the image of him in our heads, which couldn't be further from his 2-season-long track record. So I think that the Texans are, I don't know what the actual odds are. They are one of 3 teams off the top of my head in the AFC that I peg as favorites in the conference.
Who are the other 2?
The pool of teams that come to mind are the Chargers, the Bills, and I feel like I'm blanking on somebody else. The Chargers. The Broncos. Those are the kind of the top teams in my mind. I could see the Ravens getting to that level because of Lamar Jackson, but sure. I need to see it with their new coaching staff first. I am going to continue to softly sell the Kansas City Chiefs until further notice. I'm going to bet against Patrick Mahomes having the greatest ACL in history of ACL recoveries. So those Agreed. Are the teams at the top of my list, and I'd need to sit here and think about it if I was going to rank them. But if CJ is the version of him that I think is real, they're in the top 4, and I don't think they're 4th.
Interesting. Easton, talking about Cam Ward and the Titans, obviously a big topic right now, and it doesn't feel like there are a lot of narratives that you hear that are in the middle on Cam Ward. He is either has no chance to succeed and has been given no help and needs all the time in the world, or he's a bust. He's never going to pan out. The Titans should start thinking about Mitch Trubisky or even worse, Arch Manning. And of course, the reasonable take is firmly in the middle, probably more towards the positive than the negative one there, in my opinion. I think I've read a lot of your writing about this, and I think you're on the right track in that if you just watched the preseason games, vibes would be bad. And vibes aren't great even with watching practice and the preseason games baked in. But you and I are at practice and see the improvements that he is making, standing in the pocket, making plays, finding Carnell Tate, which obviously isn't happening in preseason games either. So I guess what is the state of Cam Ward for you and the way you see things right now, and how much do you personally, Easton Freeze of A to Z Sports, care about the performances that he has put on the field in 2 preseason games?
The games themselves, I care very little. I'm more intrigued and kind of confused by them than I'm actually caring about them. Because you can say it's like, well, who cares how he does in the practice? It's about how he performs in the real games. Well, those aren't the real games. And joint practice is really the thing that I cared the most about. We actually spent our entire A to Z Sports morning show this morning talking about this. If people want to go and listen to some of the data that Ryan Paganetti, who is a former strategy and analytics coach, I believe, for the Raiders, Jaguars, and Eagles. If you're on Twitter, you've seen him all summer long because he's become this big social media guy because he knows his stuff and has a really interesting perspective. He was talking yesterday on his podcast about how there is actual data to support that joint practice performance is somewhat indicative of future results, whereas preseason games obviously are not, straight up not indicative of future results. And there's a couple of reasons for that, I think, that are pretty obvious. It's the fact that in joint practice, you get more than 3 drives from the starters. It's the fact that in joint practice, it's the ones on the ones instead of the ones on the twos or the twos on the threes or whatever mishmash you have in there. It's the fact that the players and coaches all very openly do not hide the ball about caring way more about joint practice than the actual preseason games. And then maybe the most important is the fact that in joint practice, they are spending 2 hours running there honest to God, real offense and defense, whereas in the preseason game, they are running what is intentionally a shell, confusing misdirection version of the offense and defense. So the performance in joint practice is what matters the most to me. And I think that regular practice and the preseason games are interesting data points, but they don't move me very much.
I think that's a good way to put it. And I was watching Kurt Warner's film breakdown last night on his YouTube channel of Cam Ward, and I heard a lot about footwork again, which seems to be popping back up. And maybe some old habits are coming back to the forefront when Cam has the potential to get hit that he doesn't have, when he can step into every throw, even if Jeffrey Simmons has already waved and yelled at Robert Saleh saying, sack, and Cam is still allowed to throw the football because that's the way practice works. But do you think, Easton, the Titans are concerned about Cam Ward's footwork? Because there are a lot of moments on film right now where he is stepping to second base and throwing to first base and drifting his throws to the right from his perspective of his intended target.
I think they're concerned. I'll put it this way. Another player on offense that fits into this conversation is Alec Manor, who we've seen do a lot of really impressive things. It seems like he's taken a leap. One of the first things he said to us in the spring about his work this offseason was that he has really emphasized his posture and working in a forward lean at all times instead of being upright. He's a taller guy. He's a bigger guy. You want to win the leverage game. And if you're going to use that size and strength to your advantage on a route, you have to out-leverage the guy that might have a better center of gravity than you. And we have seen him, I talked to him one-on-one for an article I did a couple weeks ago about that overemphasis in practice. Because if you clue in on him in wide receiver drills in practice, it's like he's bowing. He is trying to get horizontal to the earth with his torso when he's lined up. And if you just watch that, you're like, well, that's no good. You're going to get planted in press coverage. That's not going to work. And in talking to him, he's like, I'm doing that to try to overdo it because I know that when the real bullets are flying, the muscle memory is going to kick in, and I'm trying to battle that. And then when you watch him joint practice or in the preseason games, you see, yep, there it is. The posture is kind of reverting to the bad habits.
Sure.
I bring that up in the conversation with Cam because as much as he drills the footwork and overemphasizes practicing that every day, I think that those kind of fundamental habits for these guys that have been playing football their whole lives has to be adjusted in game. You have to have the real reps and fight the muscle memory in the real reps to actually create the new habit. And so I say all that to say I'm not surprised that Alec is reverting to the lack of forward lean, or that Cam Ward is reverting to some old habits with footwork, because they need more real reps to do it. I'm glad they're drilling it. Drilling it in practice is the first step to getting it to work in the game, but the second step is to actually work on it in the game, and you have to play the games to get to do that.
Easton, I just got done basically saying a lot of this exact same thing right before you came on. If you wanted a new coach and a new coaching staff, you have to now allow them to make these corrections in real time. Like,
yes,
a coach's job does not end when training camp ends. In a lot of ways, it starts when training camp begins to end. And now finally, Brian Daboll has the clicker and can tell Cam Ward, all right, listen up. Like, this is what you did wrong. And I think this is just, we've kind of lost the plot here a little bit, right? Because we watch on quarterback, Brian Callahan conceding to Cam Ward what Cam Ward wants to do, and tell ourselves, Brian Daboll's not going to do that. Thank God. Right? We got somebody new in here. He's going to tell Cam Ward what to do. You know what? Finally, a coach that's really going to tell it like it is to Cam Ward. But then we abandon the process when that time actually comes for Brian Daboll to tell Cam Ward what to do. Like, no one's harder on Cam than Cam, except for maybe Brian Daboll, who I tend to believe is kind of wired the same way that Cam Ward is.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm somebody that is pretty adamant about the fact that it's players over coaches every day, twice on Sunday. I think coaching matters in the NFL more than any of the other major sports. I'm not discrediting the idea that coaching matters, but to me, it's like a 40-60 split, and maybe it's a little bit more lopsided than that. Having great coaching almost always does not matter if you have bad players. And I think that there are some coaches that break that mold who are truly head and shoulders above the rest, but that is a group of guys that I can count on one hand at any given time. The rest, this is something that Nick Suss and I talk about all the time. We think the middle class of coaching is like 96 or 97% of all the coaching. That the truly awful, actively detrimental coaches are the bottom 1 or 2 or maybe 3 in the league that year.
Right.
And the truly transformational, by themselves, impact on a team coaches, again, you can count on one hand. So maybe it's 90%, whatever it is. It's the 2 or 3 or maybe 4 at the top of the list. Everybody else is kind of out there doing their thing, and they are all shades of roughly the same thing. And not to paint the Titans coaching staff into a corner. I want to see them do stuff. And so, coaches that are transformational were at one point in their lives not transformational. So everybody has the ability to adapt and become that. I just think that with Cam and Dable, their relationship is important to me. Dable's different style, I think, is important for Cam. And I think that what he's asking him to do leans into his skill set right now more than what Callahan was doing. I do think that if this works, it will quickly bring up an interesting conversation about how sustainable Dable's ask of Cam is, and whether or not that star is going to burn bright, whether or not he can adapt and not just play the hits, which is one of the biggest critiques against him as an offensive coordinator. But that is firmly in the bucket of let's address that if and when we get there.
Easton, final one for you. What is the biggest non-Cam Ward thing you have learned about this football team through training camp so far?
Ooh. What a good question.
Thank you.
This is the first thing that came to mind, and maybe it's not the biggest.
Okay.
I've already mentioned Elikai Manor and how much I'm excited about him, and he's my boy, so I'm not going to double up on that. But just know that that's in there.
Fair.
I'll say that I'm thinking that just anybody can play linebacker for Robert Saleh. Now, that's not to diminish the guys that are on this team, but I think back to the draft cycle when we were talking about Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles and these guys that, on paper, you watch with a scouting eye and you're like, well, I'd love to see Robert Saleh work with these guys because who knows what could happen. But right now, I'm doing, 53-man roster exercises, and I'm like, are they going to keep 6 linebackers, 5? Like, all of these guys have looked impressive, and James Williams suddenly is a stud, and Dorian Mausi they love, and they brought in Mahmoud Diabate, and he's at the top of their fake depth chart, so clearly they're interested. Like, and Cedric Gray continues to look good. Cody Barton's really the only guy anybody still has an issue with right now. In hindsight, I think it's just funny that we were thinking about, needing to spend really premium assets on a linebacker when we'll see in the real games. I kind of think Saleh's defense and Saleh's approach is the golden Midas touch for linebacker play.
I think it's well put. He is Easton Freeze, writing about the Tennessee Titans, talking about the NFL for A to Z Sports. He is on a lot of dartboards in red and Titan blue in the city of Houston as we sit here talking to you this morning. Thank you, Easton. Appreciate you.
See you tomorrow, Will.
Yes, sir. Easton Freeze with us this morning. Final call for phone calls, 615-737-1045 as we wrap up the show next. Wrapping up the show on Ramon and Will. R.I.P. Dolly Parton, the greatest of all of us. Passed away yesterday. Of course, it's been fun listening to all her music as we've gone. Appreciate Jeff Ferris, Rhett Bryan, Bill Connolly, and Easton Freeze for hanging out. College football back tomorrow. Austin P. Gardner-Webb. I will be tuned in.
Let's go.
We'll absolutely be tuned in to that on ESPN Plus tomorrow night. And you can be as well. You know what else I'm going to be tuned in on over the next couple nights? The Atlanta Braves. Braves Dodgers last night. Braves getting a W. Yeah, we get a lot of comments like, why don't y'all talk more other sports, more other things? Well, this is America, and you guys love football, and every data point we have tells you that you would rather us talk football. But I got a couple minutes for the Braves. 4-3 over the Dodgers last night. Please do it again tonight. Please do it again tonight. Was very worried last night. Mike Yastrzemski has typically been playing left field. They put in the former Bearden High School baseball player, Knoxville, Tennessee's own Lane Thomas. Ball goes off his glove last night. Shohei Ohtani gets to third with nobody out. Raisel Iglesias shuts the door. Got the job done. Got Mookie Betts out. They walk Max Muncy. They strike out Freddie Freeman, who was 0-for-5 last night, which means he's probably going to have like 2 homers tonight. But they get Tommy Edman out to ground into a fielder's choice to end the ball game. And, he flew out to center. That's right, to end the ball game. Braves needed it. 3.5 up in the NL East. Philly's still right there behind them. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Braves have no pitching for me to feel confident about them in October. Just nothing. Like, I just feel like they're going to wilt into the lockout. We're not going to have baseball next year. We're going to waste a year of Ronald Acuna. We're going to waste a year of Matt Olson. Like, I'm very negative about this, but I have reason to be. I've seen this story so many times. They don't have even half of the starting pitching that they need in order to make noise in the postseason. They're going to rely on Martin Perez and Grant Holmes to start playoff games. Last night felt like a playoff game, and they won it. Bryce Elder gave them a good start, but this is a season-defining week for the Atlanta Braves.
What happened to them from the start of the season? They were on fire.
They were on fire, and then Ronald Acuna got hurt twice.
Oh, he keeps getting hurt.
They're just they're a 500 team when he's not healthy. Always have been. And 2021 is the exception of that, when they got hot and obviously caught lightning in a bottle with Jock Peterson, Jorge Soler. Kyle Wright gives them some big innings in October against the Astros. And they made a ton of good trades.
Yeah.
Ton of good trades. Will Smith goes on a heater. Tyler Matzik is looking like Mariano Rivera. Like, that's what it took for them to kind of come together. And that just wasn't happening when Ronald got hurt. But they went through a little stretch where they couldn't hit. Then they went through a stretch where they couldn't pitch. And they just don't have starting pitching. Like, it's Chris Sale and Martin Perez has been great. No Spencer Strider, no Spencer Schwellenbach, no Hurston Waldrop, A.J. Smith-Shawver coming back from another injury. They've got to put the pieces together, and they have got to get more innings out of their starting rotation.
Yeah, that sounded pretty bad. That was a long list of players.
Yeah, I could go on and on and on. Again, like, when you guys will sometimes ask, like, please talk about the other sports. If I was planning a show based on what I most enjoy talking about, we'd talk a ton of soccer. We'd talk a ton of baseball. We'd be talking about transfer window. Like, it's not what we want to talk about. It's what you guys want to talk about. Yeah. And you guys want to talk about football. So we talk about football.
Yeah. Because I think you were starting to make me an Arsenal fan.
Come on over.
Yeah, because I did a quiz the other day, and it told me that I should be an Arsenal fan. I was like, I should tell Will.
There you go.
Yeah. Premier League starting up here soon.
There you go. We have 2 people in the chat saying, what about hockey talk? What? Season hasn't started yet.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, it'll be here.
About a month and a half.
Preds also have not inspired much reason to talk about them.
No.
I mean, let's just face it. Like, they made some moves. I like some of the moves they've made. I mean, I don't know a ton about it, but I mean, they feel like they've got an experienced general manager who's made some moves. We'll see. Like, it is harder to be rebuilding and not be the main sport in town, because they lose a lot of interest when they're bad, and they've been bad now for years.
And taking a second fiddle right now to Nashville SC, MLS's
Bingo. Absolutely. So, as we go into October, we'll talk a little more baseball. I mean, that's my big 3 sports are football, baseball, and soccer. I like basketball, but I just like more Vols basketball than I do
Postseason basketball.
I love March Madness. It's like the best month ever. But anyway, that's that. And that was talking baseball, as they would say on Pardon My Take. Ramon will join us again tomorrow. We will be live from Titans and Bears joint practice. The Buck Rising Show next on 104.5 The Zone.